Chapter 2:21. As soon as he entered the room, Ding Ming didn't enter a meditative state. Instead, he sat on the bed and adjusted himself before expanding his telekinesis vision. This time, he didn't expand his vision in all directions. Instead, he sent dozens of telekinesis dots back to where they came from, surrounding the lounge in the center of the spaceship and scanning the crowd from multiple angles. There was no other reason for doing this other than to find out more about who Biao from these passengers. With his current multidimensional vision ability, any passenger's voice, even their snoring, would form a stream of information back to Ding Ming's brain. Unfortunately, after 20 minutes of scanning, he didn't find any useful information as he had expected. Most of these passengers were freelance mercenaries. They kept a low profile after boarding the spaceship, sitting in groups of 3 or 5. Everyone was silent and didn't say much. The other peddlers and origin ability users were the same. After sitting for a long time, they simply lowered their heads and dozed off. Some of them even directly fell asleep on the steel plates. Little Rascal couldn't help but say, "Why don't we use the Skylight wristband to contact Green Arrow and see if there are any new developments?" Xiao AI immediately stopped him. It's best not to use Skylight so easily. According to my analysis, this giant ring looks old, but the control facilities and operating system are actually very well maintained. Our ion signal is much stronger than the wristbands in the lounge. There's a chance we'll be caught as soon as we turn it on. Ding Ming nodded in agreement. Indeed, there's no need to arouse suspicion. He suddenly laughed. I was so focused on watching those people that I neglected what's in front of me. At this time, his telekinesis vision retracted to the VIP area. He could clearly see that the four-eyed man and the Russian were arguing over a pack of Hongdashan. Ming Yin was in a distant room, entering the sensor cabin. In the corridor outside, Liao Zhang was leading a group of beautiful women to his door from time to time. Brother Mo's status in this group of students was clearly not low. He was alone in the most expensive suite and was currently lying in the sensor cabin meditating. In the other rooms, several couples were performing ********. Ding Ming didn't stay for long. Meanwhile, Huazai was a single dog living alone in a small room. At this time, he was calling Liao Zhang to recommend value-added services. Ding Ming laughed. He retracted his telekinesis vision and called Liao Zhang from his contact list. Little Rascal couldn't help but ask, "Ding Ming, what are you doing? Do you want to call it a value-added service?" Ding Ming nodded. "Yes, you." Little Rascal was instantly heartbroken. "Heh, you good for nothing. How could you be interested in such vulgar cosmetics? It's fine if you don't want to touch the pumpkins, but you can obviously get your hands on that young lady. Why are you scared? Which one of these people wasn't stronger than them? Even Meng Yan's true body is quite beautiful. You're really regressing." Ding Ming ignored him, because not long after, Liao Zhang knocked on the door and came in with a large group of gorgeously dressed beauties. As soon as he entered the room, all the beauties lined up and bowed their heads neatly. "Welcome, distinguished guest, to the Heaven's Fate transport ship. Cyprus Ancient Star welcomes your arrival. We wish you a pleasant evening." Liao Zhang's obsequious face had already appeared. "Hee, Brother Wolf, you don't have to say anything. How about a 50% discount? Brother, I'll give you a silver membership card. Our company's service is absolutely first class. Do you want to take a look at the service items first?" Ding Ming didn't pay attention to him. His gaze swept past the beauties. These people, inside and out, had no secrets in his eyes. These artificial beauties all looked as beautiful as flowers on the surface. But in fact, upon closer inspection, the traces of plastic surgery were quite heavy. After looking at them for a long time, these people looked like mannequins. They were qualitatively different from natural beauties like Chu Xiaoqing, Dai Yi, and Meng Yan. All the beauties were also equipped with wristwatches. The information displayed on the screen was very professional. Name, number, service items, price, popularity. It was really clear at a glance. Ding Ming suddenly pointed to a petite, doll-like lovely beauty and said, "It's you." The information displayed on the screen of this beauty was name Dai Dai, price 500 star coins, popularity 1023 points, the most popular of all the customers. The second place popularity was only 625 points, and the third place popularity was 330 points. Liao Zhang tactfully led the rest of the beauties away and closed the door. As soon as he retreated, the beauty called Dai Dai turned around and began to take off her dress. "Wait a minute." Ding Ming decisively stopped her. Dai Dai revealed a sweet professional smile. "Does Lord Wolf have any orders?" Ding Ming also smiled. "You don't need to take off your clothes. I'll ask you a few questions, and you just need to answer them honestly." While saying this, Ding Ming opened his wristwatch and pulled out 1,000 star coins from the currency system. "As long as your answers satisfy me, this tip is yours." Dai Dai's eyes suddenly lit up. In her line of work, her eyesight was even sharper than that of an origin ability user. When she saw Ding Ming's wristwatch, she knew that this boss's wealth was definitely not low. Moreover, in her line of work, she loved this kind of rich guy who gave her money for free. Dai Dai immediately puffed out her chest. "Lord Wolf, please ask." Ding Ming pondered and said, "How long has Mr. Liao been working on the Heaven's Fate?" It had to be said that this question was quite technical. Dai Dai answered without hesitation, 3 years, about 3 years and 8 months. Ding Ming nodded. Liao Zhang could do business on the Heaven's Fate without even thinking about it. It must have been permitted by the extreme pirate team, and he had been doing business for more than 3 years. This showed that the cooperation between the two sides was quite good. Therefore, there were many things that he couldn't directly ask Liao Zhang about, as it would arouse suspicion. "There are more passengers on this ship than usual. What are they doing on Cypress Planet?" Ding Ming threw out a second question. This question was a bit of a gamble. He also found that the lounge was quite crowded through his telekinesis vision. Many people didn't even have a place to stand, directly curling up in the main passage. He roughly estimated that the number of passengers on this ship was much higher than usual. Sure enough, Dai Dai answered. "What else can it be?" "Making money, of course." Originally, Cypress Planet was almost mined out. Recently, a company from the Federation came and found a new mine on the planet. Mr. Liu is also recruiting miners and preparing to mine that mine. I heard that the pay is good, so a lot of people came here. Needless to say, Mr. Liu must be Liu Ming. Ding Ming continued to ask, "What kind of pay is it?" Dai Dai looked a little dissatisfied. 200 star coins per person per day, 5 bottles of nutrient supply. I heard that the bonus for mining is calculated separately. It's about 600 to 1,000 star coins per day. Some time ago, I heard that someone dug up something good, and Mr. Guan gave out a bonus of 30,000 star coins. The pay was not much worse than in her line of work. No wonder she was a little dissatisfied. Moreover, if someone dug up a treasure, they would be given 30,000 star coins. It seemed that there was something valuable in that mine. Ding Ming was no stranger to this Mr. Guan. Before departure, Jing Hao provided him with a list of the top executives of the Extreme Pirate team. This Guan Bao was Liu Ming's right-hand man, and he specialized in managing financial matters for him. Ding Ming pondered and continued to ask, "Then do you know what kind of good things those people dug up?" Dai Dai shook her head and said, "I don't know the details, but a lot of people did get money. Last time, a guy who received a bonus came back to sleep with me. He said he dug up a high-quality crystal mine, and Mr. Guan was so happy that he gave out a bonus of 10,000 star coins. This time, even Little Rascal couldn't help but admire Ding Ming's shrewdness and caution. These beauties were actually the most well-informed group of people on the Heaven's Fate. This was because they served many customers, and these customers were mostly people who mingled around Cypress Planet. In the bed of a beauty, not many men could keep their mouths shut. They would more or less leak some information. Ding Ming continued, "Then do you know the name of the company from the Federation?" Dai Dai pondered and said, "I think it's called Fugue Bird or something." Little Rascal immediately searched the database and said, "Fugue Bird, a mining company under the Holy Grail Federation. They specialize in exploration, mining, processing, and research and development. This company isn't big, but one thing worth noting is that they have a very close relationship with the Haitian group. A considerable part of their business was transferred to them by the Haitian group. The Haitian group was the behemoth behind Chu Feng and Lan Bing. It seemed that this Fugue bird was also indirectly related to Chu Feng. Ding Ming's biggest enemy right now was actually Extreme Heaven Corporation. They had always been eyeing the K-Virus memory. The tragedy that happened on KV-303 was caused by Chu Feng and Lan Bing, but there was no evidence to prove that they were the ones who hired the pirates. However, this speculation was also unreasonable. With Extreme Heaven Corporation's manpower, financial, and material resources, there was no need for them to be involved with the notorious pirates. So, Ding Ming felt that it was necessary to directly ask, "Do you know Commander Hu Biao?" Dai Dai said, "I know him, but I've only seen him a few times." Ding Ming frowned and said, "Why?" Dai Dai helplessly said, "A big shot like Brother Biao wouldn't take the heavenly fate. They all have their own personal spaceships." Ding Ming said, "Then where can I go to visit Commander Hu?" Dai Dai smiled again. "Lord Wolf, you're in luck. I heard that Brother Biao just returned to Bogger Planet. His spaceship should be in front of us." Ding Ming also smiled and raised his wrist. "Okay, I'll let you make a small fortune today. You can go now." Little Rascal said, "It seems that it's not realistic for us to catch up to that Hu Biao." Ding Ming nodded. "It's very difficult to find him now." Little Rascal said, "Then what should we do next?" "It doesn't matter." Ding Ming's eyes flashed coldly. "We can't find him, but I have a way to make him come to us." Dai Dai received the tip and quickly left Ding Ming's room. But as soon as she left, she ran into Liao Zhang in the corridor. Liao Zhang was very puzzled. "Why are you out so soon?" Dai Dai replied indifferently, "I'm done." "Done? How many minutes has it been?" Liao Zhang was stunned, but then he sighed helplessly. "Sigh. Although Brother Wolf is handsome, his body isn't very good. Next time, I'll sell him some vigorous energy pills. Give him a 30% discount." Chapter 222. The Tianyun spaceship traveled in space for 20 days before arriving at Cyprus Ancient Planet. This shiny yellow-brown planet was, in fact, far from what it looked like on the map. First of all, its gravity was much higher than that of ordinary planets. It was difficult for ordinary people without a strong foundation to move on the ground. Therefore, the merchants on the Tianyun spaceship put on anti-gravity armor as soon as they got off the spaceship to facilitate normal movement. Secondly, the ground was almost barren. There were no city-states or markets. The places for people to move around and trade were all in the underground city inside the planet. There was only one reception airport on the ground. The scale of the airport was huge, at least 30 times that of the Green Arrow base. The buildings and facilities here, including the ground, were all made of gray metal. The whole place gave off a depressing and gloomy feeling. Just like planet KV-303, it was night all year round. There was no day at all. All the light came from the command building on the parking apron in the square. This building was quite strange. It had a total of 50 floors and was twisted in a C shape. In front of the building, a huge virtual hologram was erected using a large crystal projector. All kinds of information were refreshed on it, such as missions issued by the Extreme Pirate Troop, news of the major markets, some relevant news of the Federal Empire, and announcements of the entire Cyprus Ancient Planet. Directly below this holographic screen, there were hundreds of small optical computers. These were provided for the newcomers to Cyprus Woodstar to use for free. The giant screen displayed the general information, and these optical computers displayed the detailed information of the classification. What do you want to do? Which area do you want to go to? Where do you want to go? What should you pay attention to? Check it here, and then go to the designated underground city according to the prompts. Now, the pinned message on the giant screen was, "The Extreme Pirate Troop is recruiting a large number of talents and wisdom engaged in mining activities." Under normal circumstances, the Outer Space Corps rarely used such words when issuing missions. Talents and wisdom meant that the requirements were definitely not low. Meng Yin roughly glanced at it. The general requirements were senior origin ability user, proficient in various mining equipment, with a solid professional foundation and rich mining experience. Those with relevant experience would be given priority, and the treatment would be generous. Meng, Yin turned her head to look at Ding Meng. Ding Meng slowly nodded. This meant that they would act according to the plan that they had discussed beforehand. Four-Eyed and Maori would go to the high-rank mercenary encampment to receive a mission. Meng Yin would go to the black market to gather information, and Ding Meng would act alone. Finally, everyone would meet up when they had new clues. This idea was decided by Ding Meng, and there was only one reason for it. The Meng Yin trio had never been to Cyprus Ancient Star before, so that they were not clear about the situation here. However, 2 years ago, Ding Meng had been here. At that time, his identity was not a freelance mercenary, but a captured slave. He was sold to the refugee camp here by the mercenaries of the extreme pirate troop, so he was very clear about the operation and environment of this place. This was simply a place outside the law. Here, everything had to be done with force and money. In fact, there was another reason. When he got off the ship just now, he had been paying attention to the group of students. This group of people walked toward the reception of the sightseeing area, laughing and joking. It seemed that they were really here to travel, but Brother M.O. was missing. The square was crowded with people of all shapes and sizes. Ding Meng could not find him for a while, but Ding Meng had a hunch that Brother M.O. was going to the same area as him. It turned out that he was right. Du M.O. had left the group and walked alone to the reception area marked Fugue Bird New Mining Area. Although it was called the reception area, it was actually the entrance of the shuttle ladder. There were 2 shuttle ladders, one on the left and one on the right. Seeing that the height of the alloy door was 10 meters, one knew that the scale was not small. There was a long queue at the entrance on the left. All the people who came to apply were freelance mercenaries, all of whom wanted to mine and make a fortune. However, there was also a group of heavily armed extreme pirate troop soldiers in the open space in front of the entrance. They were asking questions one by one, and it was noisy and chaotic. Du M.O. chose the entrance on the right, which was the exclusive shuttle ladder of the Fugue Bird Company. A man in a suit and leather shoes was already waiting at the door. As soon as Du M.O. arrived, the man in the suit took the initiative to greet him. "Excuse me, are you Mr. Du?" Du M.O. did not say much. He turned on the light screen on his wrist device and took the initiative to show his identity. Du M.O., Starlight University, Mentors, Hua Bai, Jin Yun, Chung Jin, Duan Fengyang, Du Mandong, Stephen King Schneider. Below the character image were the electronic seals and signatures of these mentors, proving that the visitor was indeed a genuine referrer. The man in the suit was a little surprised at the youth of this person, but at this moment he immediately became respectful. "Hello, Mr. Du, I am John Wilson, the Deputy Technical Supervisor of the new mining area. You can call me John." Du M.O. was very polite and took the initiative to reach out his hand. "Hello, John. How is the situation now?" John's eyes fell on the line on the left, but his expression was very helpless. As you can see now, according to the drawings, the intelligent mining phase has ended. At present, we must carry out manual mining. The Extreme Pirate Corps wanted to participate, but the management did not agree. However, the company could not refuse. After all, this is Cypress Grove, so they allowed the Extreme Pirate Corps to recruit miners to help us gather enough manpower. Du M.O. glanced at the mercenary line not far away and said, "I saw it when I got off the ship just now. They are also recruiting according to our requirements." John spread his hands and said, "It's a pity that many people can't meet the professional requirements." Du M.O. smiled. "Don't worry. There must be people who can meet the requirements." He had just glanced at Ding Meng in the line. Ding Meng was being checked. A soldier in armor was holding a handheld scanner up and down Ding Meng's body, and then checking the relevant information on the wrist device. After looking for a while, the soldier turned his head to look at the entrance of the shuttle ladder. A tall mercenary without armor slowly walked over. It seemed that he was the leader of this group of soldiers. The checking soldier immediately handed the wrist device to him. "Brother Luan, this is his information." Brother Luan only glanced at the screen and understood his subordinate's concerns. He looked at Ding Meng and said in a low voice, "Boy, you should have known the rules here when you got off the ship, right?" Ding Ming could only nod. Yes. Brother Luan snorted and said, "Look, the man standing in front of you is called Mao Luan. You can call me Brother Luan. I am responsible for making you rich, but let me put it bluntly. If you dig up something and don't hand it in, I'm sorry. You will never be able to return to the surface. Of course, if you are honest and willing to work hard, Master Luan will not treat you badly, understand?" "Understood, Brother Luan." Ding Ming appeared to be very calm. His perception had already seen through Mao Luan. The other party should be a high-level biochemical warrior. His origin ability foundation was not weak. He was actually not below Runjan of the Skywolf Corps. This was because he could feel that Mao Luan's aura was quite violent. Mao Luan stared at Ding Ming and coldly said, "Humph, a refugee camp laborer. You actually have the ability to escape. You are quite amazing." This question seemed casual, but in fact, it was a sharp probe. The identity of Wild Wolf could be found in the refugee camp system. There was no doubt about it. Ding Ming replied unhurriedly. He even imitated Wild Wolf's mannerisms and tone perfectly. "They make me mine every day. I dig day and night. I can't do it anymore." Mao Luan nodded in satisfaction. There was a slight smile on his face. "So you have awakened your origin ability." "Yes, I am an origin ability user," Ding Ming replied in a low voice. He had to admit this because he was not wearing armor. This was not something an ordinary person could do. Mao Luan smiled. "Interesting. What did you mine in the past?" Ding Ming said, "In the K7 system, the Black Gold base managed by the Surprise Attack Corps. The Black Gold base was extremely secretive. Not many people knew what had happened there. Thus, Ding Ming was confident that even if the Extreme Pirate Corps knew about the Black Gold base, they would not know what had happened there. Mao Luan's focus was not on this. "How long did you work there?" Ding Ming said, "More than 5 years." Wild Wolf had indeed followed Machine Gun in the mine for 5 years. He knew these things better than anyone else. Mao Luan was still staring at him. He continued to ask, "What do you know?" Ding Ming said in a low voice, "Crystal embryo, gold sand, rough embryo, shale, associated source, diamond or titanium or aquamarine source, blood crystal." He named more than 10 kinds of mineral materials in one breath. This time, not only was Mao Luan satisfied, even Hardadef nodded slightly in the distance. Those who had not worked in the underground mine for more than 3 years would never be able to name these materials. Ding Ming's answer was very meaningful. These materials were usually excavated manually. The intelligent robots usually processed the large mines that did not require protection. "It's not easy for you." Mao Luan nodded approvingly. "But you have a nice backpack. Where did you get it?" Ding Ming said, "Dazzling gold of Sirius. I stole it." Mao Luan laughed again. His eyes fell on the skylight wrist device on Ding Ming's wrist. "You look expensive." Ding Ming said proudly, "I'm here for the bonus reward of the Extreme Pirate Corps. Ordinary mines are not worth my time." Mao Luan nodded and smiled. "Okay, you're experienced. I approve you to go down. But before you go, I have a request." Ding Ming frowned. "What request?" Mao Luan also said proudly, "Come on, punch me." Ding Ming immediately lowered his head. "I don't dare. It's against the rules." Mao Luan stared and said sternly, "I'm the rule of this mine. If I ask you to punch me, you have to punch me. Come on, let Brother Luan see your level. Are you qualified to be a miner of our Extreme Pirate Corps?" Ding Ming hesitated. "Well," Mao Luan said coldly, "are you afraid?" Ding Ming was indeed afraid, but he was not afraid of Mao Luan. He was afraid that he would directly punch Mao Luan to the ground. If that happened, he would be exposed before he could go down to the mine, so he did not dare to use his strength. However, in the eyes of the people around, it was not the case. Ding Ming suddenly punched out. It seemed to be quite powerful. Even his clothes were stirred up by the wind. The fist went straight to Mao Luan's chest, almost in the blink of an eye. Chapter 223. In the eyes of the surrounding people, Ding Ming's punch was fast enough, but the problem was that when the punch landed, the opponent's chest was no longer there, and the person was no longer there. Mao Luan was already standing 3 meters behind Ding Ming, carrying a backpack in his hand. It was Ding Ming's glittering backpack. John could not help but whisper, "His speed is really fast." Yes, Du Mo also nodded. At the moment when Ding Ming punched, Mao Luan had a reaction. He turned around and took the backpack from Ding Ming's shoulder. Then he flashed behind Ding Ming. The whole action was smooth and did not take more than a second. Only Du Mo could see it clearly. The people around him did not know what was going on. At this time, Mao Luan opened the backpack and looked down. "Oh boy, you really came prepared." In the end, he was still not at ease with Ding Ming. "You were a surprise worker, you had a serious backpack, and you could wear such a high-end wrist device. These factors added together would make people suspicious. But now that the backpack was open, there was nothing inside." Mao Luan was relieved. This kid obviously prepared in advance and left enough space in the backpack. He was determined to come here and mine for gold. "Go down." Mao Luan threw the backpack back to Ding Ming. He thought that he was smart enough to test Ding Ming. Before getting off the ship, all the things in the backpack were transferred to Meng Yan's backpack, including the ancient sword and the claw knife. Ding Ming did not have many things on him now. Moreover, Mao Luan's actions were completely in slow motion in his eyes. He did not care at all. At this time, the shuttle ladder of the Fuguwei Bird Company had been raised. John politely stretched out his hand. "Mr. Du, please." Du Mo reluctantly stepped forward. He could not observe Ding Ming anymore. At least it was not good to stay for a long time. If he stayed on the ground for too long, it would inevitably arouse Mao Luan's suspicion. Hardadef did not follow Du Mo into the shuttle ladder, but stayed on the ground and continued to wait for the next refer to arrive. After the alloy door closed, the shuttle ladder began to descend rapidly. The walls of the shuttle ladder were made of high-grade crystalline plates, and the outside could be seen from the inside. In Dumo's eyes, the underground city was a twisted world, like the underground command center of the Flying Star City. Countless buildings covered the walls, and the streets were crisscrossed. The pedestrians on the streets looked hurried. All kinds of aircrafts were flying here and there, too. If one did not raise their head to look at the sky, the underground city was no different from the cities on the ground of the Federation. However, such a space flashed past Du Mo's eyes every few minutes. The shuttle ladder had been descending for a long time, but it was still emerging. It showed how large the number and scale of these underground cities in Cyprus' ancient star were. Du Mo suddenly turned on his wristband and opened his contact list. Hua's face quickly appeared on the screen. "Brother Mo?" Du Mo said indifferently. "Are they still on the ground? Can you contact the Skynet space station on Blue Moon?" Hua replied affirmatively, "Yes." Du Mo said, "That's good. I want to investigate a person now. His name is Wildwolf. He is a laborer. He used to work in the Black Gold base under the jurisdiction of the K7 Surprise Attack Mercenary Group. I want all the details of this person. Remember, tell them not to check in the refugee camp system. Pull up the file from the big database, including the relevant information, and send it to me by email." Hua immediately replied, "Understood. Got it." After notifying Hua, Du Mo switched to the hologram. His fingers flipped through the screen. This time, he was not browsing through the address book, but the news of the Saint Federation. This was a piece of news that had been circulating for a long time, but he still flipped through it. The title of the news was not eye-catching, but his eyes seemed to be particularly spellbound. More than 40,000 people dead. Space pirates rampant. Human Rights Association protests again. Who should be responsible for the tragedy of planet KV-303? After a long time, he turned off his wristband with a click. This was because the shuttle ladder made a prompt. They would arrive at the underground mine in 1 minute. When Du Mo arrived, Ding Ming also arrived. This mine of Fuguwei Bird Company was obviously different from the dark and primitive place of the Black Gold base. This was a central hall full of technological aura, no different from the command center on a battleship. In the east, west, and north of the square hall, there were 3 identical giant tunnels. Inside, there were conveyor belts constantly transporting dirt and waste. On the south wall, there was a 10-meter-high electronic screen, which showed the development map of the entire mine and the relevant rewards obtained by the miners. Ding Ming glanced at it. There were as many as 5,631 miners mining in each area. The person who ranked first on the leaderboard was called Qian Jinghong, with 1,231 points. These points were probably the reward provided by the extreme pirate troop, but he did not know what the specific reward was. In the center of the hall, there was a building that looked like a simple bungalow. This was the on-site appraisal station of Fuguwei Bird Company. If the miners dug up anything valuable, they would directly use their wristbands to mark it with their personal crystal light and put on the conveyor belt. After the experts of Fuguwei Bird Company appraised it, the corresponding points would be given in the system. At this time, Ding Ming had fully activated his telekinesis vision. At the same time, he also used Little Rascal's detection system and Xiao AI's observation vision. After looking carefully for a while, he knew what was going on. Then, he walked to the center of the hall unhurriedly. There was already a staff member with a portable optical computer waiting there. The staff member was a sweet-looking beauty. The beauty flipped through the screen and then showed a professional smile. "Welcome to Fuguwei Bird Company, Mr. Wolf. Please collect your toolbox." The toolbox was an anti-gravity mini satchel, which contained all kinds of digging tools. The standard configuration was laser rangefinder, semi-automatic crystal energy digging ruler, handheld mini drill, miniature dazzling light grabber. This configuration was obviously much better than the treatment of the miners in the black gold base. Of course, the most classic shovels, hoes, and other tools were indispensable. In addition, there were also minuscule digging tools such as eyelets, carvings, and carvings. Obviously, the valuable minerals could not be dug up casually. They had to be carefully and manually processed. That was why they were equipped with these tools. Such toolboxes were piled up in the open space. There were hundreds of them, and they were piled up into a small hill. Unexpectedly, Ding Ming did not even look at them. He walked straight to the north passage. "I don't need these." The beauty was stunned. This was the first time she had seen a miner who did not need tools. "Did you dig with your hands?" Of course, she did not know that when it came to mining, Ding Ming could be said to be an authoritative expert in this field. Moreover, he did not intend to do himself. The terrain of the mining area was not complicated. Ding Ming took a few turns and came to a huge pit. This place was different from the hall outside. First of all, there were a lot of people. There were groups of coolies here and there. Ding Ming had experience in this area. Although these people were scattered, they were actually different forces in this underground world. They did not disturb each other. Secondly, this pit with a diameter of 300 meters was dug very carefully. It gradually spread out in a fan shape. Under normal circumstances, it would be narrower and narrower with manpower. When dozens of people were gathered in one place, it was inevitable that there would be disputes. However, this pit was getting wider and wider. Obviously, everyone had reached a consensus in advance. It also proved that the professional standards of the coolies here were not low. After Ding Ming opened his telekinetic vision and observed for a while, he went straight to an inconspicuous corner. There were 5 coolies there. 4 of them were young, and only one of them was slightly older, about 50 years old. This person was not using the equipment provided by the Fuguwei Bird Company. Instead, he was using a drilling machine that looked like a thermos flask. However, the 5 of them were now sitting in a circle on the ground. Behind them was a huge piece of rough rock. Those who were experienced could naturally tell that these people had dug to a dead end. There was no point in going any further. However, there must be an unspoken rule below. If you chose the other party, you had to finish digging even if you had tears in your eyes. You must not occupy other people's territory. Ding Ming simply laid his cards on the table. "I'm new here." One of the young men suddenly stood up vigilantly. "What?" "Nothing. I just want to ask you guys for help." As Ding Ming spoke, he took out a pack of cigarettes from his trouser pocket. This was obviously a pack of cigarettes that he had cheated from the four-eyed man and the Russian. Cigarettes were still considered a luxury among the mercenaries in outer space because they were rarely sold on the market. This was especially true for an old brand like Red Plum. Even in the Federation's jurisdiction, it was not easy to buy cigarettes. It was not difficult to understand why the four-eyed man and the Russian would fight to the death for this old Red Plum every time. Now, there was no need to fight. It was directly confiscated by Ding Ming. Now that the cigarettes were in the hands of the young man, he was too embarrassed to say anything. After Ding Ming scattered a circle of smoke, he introduced himself to the younger man. Wild Wolf. I used to do this on the K7 system. Li Zhao, freelance mercenary. The other party had already lit the cigarette, so his attitude was still polite. How can I help you, Brother Wolf? As soon as he introduced himself, Little Rascal quickly gave him the relevant information. Li Zhao ranked 3,894th on the leaderboard. Accumulated points, 423. This ranking and accumulated points showed that this group's progress was not smooth, so the bonus reward they received was definitely relatively small. Ding Ming could not help but laugh. Not really. I just want to join the group. Join the group? The young man from earlier sneered. What makes you think you can do that? He had a reason to doubt Ding Ming. Ding Ming did not even bring a toolbox, so what made him think he could join? Ding Ming replied faintly. As I said just now, I used to specialize in this. Brother Wolf. Li Zhao puffed out a mouthful of smoke. He only asked because of the red plum blossom. We're already full, but you don't look like someone who's bragging. If you want to join us, you should at least offer something, right? Let's make a bet. Ding Ming turned on his wristwatch and showed the trading system. If you win, these 5,000 star coins are yours. The coolies in the mining area were all single people who could not tolerate sand in their eyes. When they saw the money, their eyes immediately lit up. Li Zhao's eyes narrowed into a line. Oh, what kind of bet? Chapter 224. Ding Ming pointed at the coarse rock behind the mountain wall and said, "There's something behind it." The young man chuckled, and his laughter was very playful. If there was something behind it, I would have dug it out 3 hours ago. Would I still need you to teach me? Ding Ming also laughed and shook the screen on his wrist. I'll just ask you one thing. Do you want this money? The young man was stunned. 5,000 star coins was about 5 people's daily income. It would be a lie to say that he didn't want it. The problem was that this guy actually said that there was something behind the rock. Anyone with a little common sense would know that this was impossible. However, this guy didn't seem to be joking. He hesitated for a moment, so he turned to look at Li Zhao. Li Zhao was also doubtful. He said in a low voice, "Brother Wolf, you're very confident, aren't you?" Ding Ming said, "It's very simple. If there's nothing behind it, the money is yours. But if there's something behind it, I want to be part of the team, and my share has to be included." Li Zhao nodded slightly. He was certainly willing to accept such conditions, because no matter what, the 5 of them would definitely make a profit. There was no loss at all. Besides, it wouldn't take too much effort to move this rock. With Li Zhao's nod, the young man immediately turned around. "Okay, I'll definitely earn your money today." "Wait." Ding Ming stopped him again. The young man laughed again. "What's wrong? Going back on your word?" Ding Ming laughed. "You have to dig according to my requirements." The young man frowned. "How do you want to dig?" Ding Ming's digging method was very particular. This coarse rock was made of diamond, and it would be very difficult for ordinary tools to move it. Moreover, it was about the size of a shuttle car. The front part of the car protruded from the mountain wall, like a lump of dough stuck to the mountain wall. An experienced miner would know at a glance that this place was abandoned. However, Ding Ming's method was to dig a 10-meter-long tunnel from both sides of the coarse rock. To put it bluntly, he had to loosen the sand on both sides and then drag out the entire coarse rock. This process was completed in less than half an hour. Everyone present had some foundation and origin energy, so it wasn't difficult for them to do this. And then, the young man looked at Ding Ming again. He was a little dissatisfied because Ding Ming had been standing at the side, giving orders all this while and had not done anything at all. Ding Ming pointed at the center of the rough embryo and gestured with his fingers. "Just this one piece. Insert the laser cutter and make a rectangular opening. Go in 5 meters deep in one, 2 meters high. Use your strength on both sides. It has to be accurate. You can't miss even the slightest bit." His method of digging was obviously to dig a big hole in the center of the rough embryo. In this case, he could either dig out the rough embryo of the golden sand or get a small amount of diamond rough stone. As everyone exerted their strength together, the rough embryo shattered into pieces. Not long after, the young man's expression changed. "Brother Zhao, what do you think?" Li Zhao's expression also changed because he also saw that there was a brown metal box about the size of a coffee table in the pile of rubble that had fallen out. The brown color was due to the fact that the surface of the box had rusted over the years. It was obvious that it had been left here many years ago. The group of young men didn't care what was inside. They directly used the laser cutter to saw off the lid of the box. When the lid was lifted, an entire box of ores lay inside. Each ore was about the size of a fist. They appeared to be grayish-black in color, but in reality, they were faintly emitting a dark red luster. Finished red stone, the young man was stunned. Although he was young, his vision was not bad. Crystal sources were refined from finished crystal ores, and the quality of the finished product depended on its color. The darker and more simple the color, the better the quality. On the other hand, the lighter and more complex the color, the better the quality. On the other hand, the lighter and more complex the color, the better the quality. This kind of finished redstone was usually used to recharge spaceships. This box was enough for a miniature spaceship to float in space for a month. The group of laborers reacted quickly. They quickly put the lid back on, pulled out a seal, and tied it on top. Then, Li Zhao used his wristwatch to mark the box with a crystal light. Without saying anything, the young man picked up the box and ran outside. Apparently, he was going to the input point of the conveyor belt. Only then did Li Zhao turn around and look at Ding Ming with a surprised look. His attitude had improved a lot. "Brother Wolf, I haven't asked which regiment you used to belong to." Ding Ming completely ignored his question. "What about my share?" "This." Li Zhao had a headache. Ding Ming said, "How about this? 50-50. It's fair to everyone." "How can that be?" "Someone jumped out from the side. You didn't do anything. You didn't contribute money or effort. Why should we?" Ding Ming smiled. "If you don't accept, then I'm sorry. I'll have to find another company to work with." After saying that, he looked like he was about to turn around. Li Zhao quickly pulled it back. Brother Wolf, let's talk about it. Didn't we agree before? We'll definitely have to include your share." Ding Ming sneered. "One share is definitely not enough." Li Zhao pondered and said, "Brother Wolf, we're all freelance mercenaries. We all have families, and it's not easy to find money. How about we split the money 60-40? Ding Ming nodded. "Okay, I'll take 60%, and you'll take 40%. I'll take a step back. You." Li Zhao and the other three were dumbfounded. What kind of logic was this? Just now, you were the one who wanted a 50-50 split. Now that you're offering a 60-40 split, you think you're taking a step back? You're even more arrogant than the leaders of the extreme robbers. Before these young men could react, Ding Ming waved his hand and said, "Don't thank me so quickly. If we find something good later, it won't be as simple as a 60-40 split." Li Zhao's eyes lit up. "Brother, if you can show us something, I have no problem with a 60-40 split." Ding Ming glanced at him and said coldly, "I'll let you make a small fortune today." He turned to the other three young men and said, "Take your tools and continue to dig along these two tunnels. The one on the left is vertical downward, and the one on the right is 15 degrees to the right. It's 20 meters long. Let me know when you find something." The three young men looked at each other. This guy said it so casually. They didn't know if he was telling the truth or not. Li Zhao immediately smelled the scent of money. Whether it was an opportunity or not, they had to try. So he quickly shouted, "Everyone, listen to Brother Wolf. Let's dig in. Let's dig in." The four of them picked up the drill and started to dig. Their actions made Ding Ming feel ashamed. These people were the ones who really did this for a living. Their actions were much more professional than his. While they were digging, the young man from before came running back. Ding Ming now knew his name, Dao Su. Dao Su was out of breath from running. As soon as he entered the tunnel, he began to shout, "Brother Zhao, the experts at the Fuguei bird have identified it. They've given us 50 points. "What?" Li Zhao was overjoyed. He threw the drill to Dao Su without doing any work. Ding Ming had already seen the news through Xiao AI's vision, so he was not surprised. Instead, he pulled Li Zhao aside and asked, "How much bonus can we get?" Li Zhao's excitement was written all over his face. "At least 5,000 star credits." Ding Ming frowned. Exchanging 50 points for 5,000 star credits was actually not too much. After calculating, the guy named Qian Zhenghong, who was ranked first on the leaderboard with 1,200 points, had only earned 120,000 star credits in this mine. Of course, he had earned some money, but it was still far from the legendary fortune. What was there to be happy about? However, Li Zhao did not think so. Everyone's daily income was only about 1,000 star credits. If the harvest was good, it would be around 2,000 star credits. Searching for treasure in the mine was not about mining, but about trying your luck. The reason was simple. Everyone knew that there was treasure in the mine, but the exact location of the treasure depended on luck. If you were lucky, you would find it immediately. If you were unlucky, you could wander around for a few days without finding anything. In fact, the most important thing was that the 50 points had come too easily. How long had it been? It had only been an hour, so there was still a lot of time left to slowly dig. After figuring out the reason, Li Zhao became really polite to Ding Ming. "Brother, you're not talking nonsense. 60 to 40 is indeed fair. Come, sit down and have a good rest. We'll do the hard work. Do you want to smoke? My cigarettes are not as good as Old Red Plum, but it's still a brand. Soft Zhonghua. Brother, if you don't mind, you can have one." While he was fawning over Ding Ming, Dao Su's surprised voice soon came from the passage. Brother Zhao, come on, there's another shipment." Li Zhao did not care about the cigarette, but burning his mouth and rushed in. This time, the butt of the cigarette fell to the ground. This was because he did not see one box this time, but 6. 3 boxes were dug out from the left and right passages, and they were all heavily rusted metal boxes. When he opened them, he saw that they were still filled with finished crystals. The color was not as good as the first box, but they were still dark red in color. The quality could not be too bad, and he would definitely get a lot of points when he returned to the appraisal station. Moreover, according to the direction that Ding Ming had pointed out, it was obviously a shelf buried in the ground. Others could not see it, but Ding Ming's pair of magical eyes could see it. This time, Dao Su was not the only one running errands. The 4 of them picked up the boxes and rushed into the northern passage, moving as fast as wild dogs. "This, Brother Wolf, how did you know?" Li Zhao really admired Ding Ming. He had been in the mining industry for many years and had seen countless mining experts. Because of this, he knew that Ding Ming's ability to see the source of the ore was the real deal. Many experts would not have the chance to encounter it in their lifetime. Ding Ming would certainly not tell him about the telekinetic vision cheating device. He looked at Li Zhao meaningfully and said, "Let me ask you one question. Do you want to continue to make money? I will follow Brother Wolf's arrangements." Li Zhao quickly straightened his chest and said with a serious attitude, 730 is not a problem. I will guarantee Brother Wolf's share first." Ding Ming snorted disdainfully and said, "Look at you. If I really want a 9-to-1 split, you have to agree." Of course, no matter how unwilling Li Zhao was, he had to admit this point. Even if Ding Ming left them alone, they could only watch helplessly, not to mention a 9-to-1 chance. Seeing his honest expression, Ding Ming asked calmly, "Well, since you still want to make money, then let me ask you, why did this Fugue company suddenly come to this godforsaken planet to mine? You'd better answer honestly." Chapter 225. Ding Ming's question hit the nail on the head. Li Zhao's honest face disappeared without a trace and became hesitant. Ding Ming had expected this reaction and simply put pressure on him. 50-50, this. Li Zhao was helpless. The coolies could not resist this sugar-coated attack. He turned his head and looked around. He found that the coolies in the cave were all working hard and no one was paying attention to them. He pulled Ding Ming into the tunnel and whispered, "Brother Wolf, do you know about the Starbow Group?" Ding Ming definitely did not know, but Little Rascal definitely did. The Starbow Group is the second largest conglomerate in the Holy Grail Federation. They have countless properties and are involved in many industries. Not only are they incredibly wealthy, but they are also very influential in the Federation. The shadow of this behemoth has always been behind the presidential elections and changes in the parliament. It is worth mentioning that the exploration company that first discovered the Cyprus ancient star crystal mine many years ago was the Starbow Group. It was because of this that the Starbow Group rose to become a first-class conglomerate in the Federation. Later, the Federation and the Federation went to war. After the Federation counterattacked, the one who took over Cyprus Ancient Star was the Sheng Hao Group. It is currently ranked first in the Federation and is second to none. After Little Rascal's explanation, Ding Ming quickly reacted. This Fuguay bird company was most likely related to these two families. Li Zhao continued to whisper, "Since Brother Wolf knows about the Starbow Group, you must also know that this place has been at war before." Ding Ming nodded. Basically, everyone knew about the war between the Holy Grail Federation and the Devourer, and Cyprus Ancient Star was a very important strategic point on the battlefield. Li Zhao sighed. "I also heard about it from others. It is said that before the Devourer army attacked Cyprus Ancient Star, many small companies in this line of business went bankrupt. The big companies also packed up their things and ran away. There were many things that could not be transported away, so they simply buried them to avoid being discovered." Ding Ming glanced at him. "Are you talking about the things left behind by the Starbow Group?" Li Zhao shook his head and said, "I'm not sure about that, but Brother Wolf, think about it. That's possible. After the Federation's fleet reclaimed this place, the Starry Rainbow Corporation did not return. Instead, the Sheng Hao Corporation came to develop this place. These two corporations have always been at loggerheads with each other. Why would the Sheng Hao Corporation come? It's obvious that they didn't come here for no reason. There's no reason for them to do such a loss-making business." Ding Ming nodded again. Li Zhao's analysis was indeed somewhat reasonable. If the Xinghong Group had dug up something valuable that was difficult to transport away, it would definitely be like this. Since I can't get it, I'll bury it. No one else can get it either. As for why the Xinghong Group did not come later, it was probably not that they did not want to come, but that the Sheng Hao Corporation had done something to prevent them from coming. Li Zhao added, "The Sheng Hao Group later dug here for more than 20 years. Even if the Star Rainbow Group hid their private goods, what should be dug up had been dug up, and what should be discovered had been discovered. However, at that time, the minerals here were too rich. If I were the boss of Sheng Hao Group, I wouldn't care about things like crystal mines." Ding Ming stared at him. "Do you mean that the Sheng Hao Corporation did not clean up this place?" Li Zhao said, "No. After the Sheng Hao Corporation moved away, the Extreme Robber Corps built this place for decades. Even the residue should have been cleaned up." Ding Ming finally understood what he meant. Did the Fuguay Bird Corporation have a way to get something that has not been discovered? Exactly. Li Zhao snapped his fingers. "Brother Wolf, look at the area we are in now. It's the deepest part of the entire Cyprus Star. It's also the last layer of the underground city. You saw the 3 passages when you came in, right? Obviously, they were dug by robots. When it came to us, it was all done by humans. These days, the scoreboard is full of people who have made a fortune by digging boxes. Brother Wolf, are my words clear enough?" It was indeed clear, and it also confirmed Ding Ming's speculation along the way. Many years ago, when the war came, the Xinghong Group must have had a batch of very important materials that had not been transferred in time, so they buried it deep in the ground. This kind of extremely confidential information could be hidden from ordinary people, but it could not be hidden from a large consortium like the Sheng Hao Corporation. Therefore, after the war, the Sheng Hao Corporation came to Cyprus Star to loot. The Sheng Hao Corporation did not completely loot it. There must be something that had not been discovered. However, the Fuguay Bird Corporation had heard the news from somewhere and continued to dig here. The signs in this mine seemed normal and could fool the eyes of the outside world, but how could they escape the detection of professional coolies? The depth of the mine meant that they were looking for an undeveloped area. The robots were mining in the periphery, processing ordinary minerals of low value in batches. The sudden change of manual excavation proved that the things they were looking for were not only valuable, but also fragile and had to be excavated carefully. Otherwise, how could there be such equipment as a miniature engraver in the toolbox provided by the Fuguay Bird Corporation? Most importantly, the senior management of the extreme pirate force were not fools. They had probably vaguely guessed the intentions of the Fuguwe Bird Corporation. They must be dissatisfied. What right do you have to play in my territory? Of course, the extreme pirate force did not dare to mess around with the Federation Company. So the current situation was the Fuguwe Bird Corporation would play with the robots, and then the professional coolies would be provided by them. As for the result, they would find the things first. To confirm this speculation, they had to go to the mine in person and ask a miner like Li Zhao. No wonder Lu Ming and Guan Bai wanted to give extra rewards to the coolies who had dug up good things. This was the real reason. Ding Ming pondered for a moment and said, "Okay, it's a deal. 50-50, but follow my instructions." Li Zhao was so happy that he slapped his thigh and said, "No problem. I'll listen to Brother Wolf." Dao Su and the other three youngsters soon returned with good news. Li Zhao's score had now risen to 692 points, and he was ranked 2,620th. In other words, the 6 boxes that were just sent back had earned everyone 20,000 star coins. Ding Ming would have to give out at least 10,000 star coins, and the remaining 5 people would get 2,000 star coins each. Today, everyone had earned 3,000 star coins each. Now that they were back on Heaven's Luck, they would be able to eat, drink, and play all day long. It was so good that they could die from the pleasure. This group of people was really full of energy and excitement. Dao Su was now also obedient to Ding Ming. Brother Wolf, are we still working?" Ding Ming glanced at him and said, "Of course, but I'll say it first. This time, I want a 73 split." This was definitely not his idea. Only Little Rascal would come up with such an idea. Little Rascal's reason was also very strong. "We can't make a loss on this trip to Cypress Grove, right? It was necessary to plunder some money. You don't want money, but it would be good to give some of it to Captain Silman. It would be a waste not to earn the money of the pirates and mercenaries." At the mention of Silman, Ding Ming suddenly thought of Ah Chiao and Little Shanzi. It would be good to get some money from Cypress Grove to give to the refugees. When the next batch of goods was scanned, he would give an 82 split. He would like to see who would dare to say no. There was no need to wait until the 82 split. Li Zhao's group dug out the third batch of goods an hour later, a full 10 boxes full of crystals. Without Ding Ming's command, this group of people, like foxes who had stolen a chicken, ran happily to the appraisal table. Li Zhao's points had risen to 1,002 points, ranking 42nd, directly into the top 50. Being a coolie, he naturally had the consciousness of a coolie. When Li Zhao came back, he very happily transferred 35,000 star coins to Ding Ming. Ding Ming's expenses for this trip were all recovered, and at the same time, he made a small profit. "Brother Wolf, are we still going to continue?" Li Zhao asked, panting. The huge consumption of physical strength could not stop his dream of getting rich. Ding Ming said lightly, "We definitely have to continue," but hearing his tone, Li Zhao's heart tightened. 82 split? Ding Ming said, "Not just 82. Li Zhao said, "Brother Wolf, do you have any other orders?" Ding Ming said, "The rest of you won't be able to do it." Dao Su could not help but ask, "Why? We can't do it." "Then who can?" "Brother Wolf, we are professional miners. I worked on Mermaid Planet for 3 years." Ding Ming could not be bothered with him. He said to Li Zhao, "Go and get more people. 10 people should be enough." This time, Li Zhao was a little unhappy. If he got more people to join them, the profits would be lower. Looking at his expression, Ding Ming knew what he was thinking. Ding Ming could not help but scold him. "You call yourselves professional miners, but you are not in the industry at all. Do you think you can get rich like this? Let me tell you, one person can't get rich. The right way is for everyone to get rich." Li Zhao was suddenly enlightened. "Don't look at how we've earned a lot of money these few times. How could others not know?" Their points on the leaderboard had risen so quickly that it was only a matter of time before they were targeted by others. When that time came, there would be many people with bad ideas. Jealousy was a habit that everyone had. Ding Ming was right. It was not right to eat alone. The safest way was for everyone to earn money together. "Xiao Su, go and get some people. Get old Wang and the others from next door to come over. Tell them that there is a new discovery. Those who want to join us should hurry up." There won't be a chance later, Li Zhao said decisively. The group expanded to 10 coolies, all of them rubbing their hands and eager to give it a try. Ding Ming said lazily, I'll say it first. This trip is 82 split. I'll take 80 and you'll take 20. If you're willing to do it, I promise you'll get something. If not, I'll hire someone else. Everyone listened to him. No problem. Brother Wolf, please tell us. How should we dig now? Chapter 226. In the appraisal hall, the door of the shuttle ladder opened again. Mao Wan swaggered down with a group of heavily armed mercenaries. This time, Du Mo and John were no longer in charge of the reception area outside the workshop. Instead, it was Du Mo and John. Captain Mao. Du Mo remained calm and courteous throughout. No matter who or what he encountered, he would remain unfazed regardless of favor or humiliation. Mao Wan could be arrogant in front of others, but he had to be polite to Du Mo. Fugue Bird was a partner of the Extreme Thief Corps, and Du Mo was a technical consultant invited by Fugue Bird from Starlight University. Mao Wan smiled. Du Mo, it's rare that you're willing to come down to the mine at such a young age. Du Mo knew his sarcastic answer. Since he came down, the number of ores produced at the appraisal table had soared in the past few days. Mao Wan must have noticed it. Du Mo asked calmly, Captain Mao, are you going to the mine in person to inspect it? Mao Wan smiled and said, No, I'm just bored and came down to see how it's going. Brother Du, you may not have done any recruitment work in school, so it's a bit boring after a long time. As he said this, his eyes inadvertently glanced at the electronic screen on the south wall. The person in first place on the leaderboard was still Qian Zhenghong with 1566 points, but the person in second place was Li Zhao with 1503 points. Du Mo might not be clear about this ranking, but Mao Wan's mind was as clear as snow. He knew the details of Qian Zhenghong and Li Zhao very well. Qian Zhenghong was a member of the Extreme Thief Corps and was very good at underground mining, while Li Zhao was a freelance mercenary from the Dragon Slaying Corps. He was good, but definitely not better than Qian Zhenghong. So it was normal that Qian Zhenghong's points were far ahead of the ranking list, while Li Zhao was in the middle. But in the past few days, Li Zhao's points had suddenly risen crazily. In the blink of an eye, he had caught up with Qian Zhenghong. It would be strange if there was no problem. That was why Mao Luan came down in person. Although Du Mo didn't know what Mao Luan was thinking. Since Mao Luan was already here, he couldn't have come here to chat with him. So he took the initiative. Captain Mao, are you interested in taking a look at the mine? Mao Luan smiled and said, Since it's student Du's invitation, I'd better accept it. The mining pit was definitely not the same mining pit as before because the bustling scene had all disappeared. Instead, thousands of people had all gone down to play, starting from the northwest corner of the mining pit. At this moment, the underground wasn't as simple as a few tunnels. Instead, it had been excavated into a new underground space. The scale of this space was huge. In fact, those with discerning eyes could see that it was basically the shape of an underground warehouse. It was like a pile of cube-shaped boxes of different sizes. In the center of the largest warehouse in the periphery, boxes of crystals were piled up neatly. Those who transported the boxes to the conveyor belt, those who delivered the boxes from the excavation site, those who sealed the boxes, those who marked the boxes, those who dug the boxes, and those who cut them. All the coolies were divided into batches in an orderly manner. It was like a very professional assembly line. It would be strange if Du Mo and Mao Wan were not suspicious. Who could be so capable down there? To be able to command these coolies in such an orderly manner, or rather, who had such great prestige to be able to make thousands of people obedient. Mao Wan casually caught a coolie who was sealing the boxes. You guys are very well organized, aren't you? This man was a mercenary from the Extreme Bandits. When he looked up and saw Mao Wan, he couldn't help but feel a little guilty. Brother Luan, Mao Wan said coldly, Didn't I ask you to come down and work for Zhenghong? Did Zhenghong arrange all this? The mercenary said, Brother Zhenghong didn't arrange it. Brother Wolf arranged for us to be here. Brother Wolf? Which Brother Wolf? Mao Wan was puzzled. There was no such person in the extreme bandits. The mercenary turned his head and pointed into the distance. There, that's Brother Wolf. Looking in the direction of his finger, they saw that in the center of the warehouse, Ding Ming was actually lying lazily on a portable plastic recliner. Next to him was a small wooden table with a lot of snacks and drinks on it. Ding Ming was leisurely chewing the strange flavored beans. Coolies kept coming over from the side, nodding and bowing as if asking for Ding Ming's opinion. Ding Ming just casually gave a few instructions, and then the coolies left happily. This guy, Mao Wan's eyes were a little dazed. This was the style of an underground mining boss. Du Mo said calmly, "It seems that all of you are very convinced by Brother Wolf." The mercenary immediately nodded, his face full of envy. "That's right, we have to be convinced. This Brother Wolf is a master. Where he says there is a mine, there really is a mine. If he says how to dig, then there will definitely be good stuff." Du Mo said hesitantly, "Not even once. Not even once." The mercenary answered firmly, "Haha, that's interesting." Mao Wan laughed, not because he was happy, but because he was so angry that he laughed. F***, this guy is even more impressive than me. At this moment, Ding Ming was happily chewing. These things were all given to him by Qian Zhenghong and Li Zhao. It would be a waste if he didn't eat them. Anyway, he didn't have to do the work himself. He just had to instruct the coolies. Ahem. Mao Wan coughed twice. Ding Ming turned his head to look and had to immediately stand up. "Brother Wan." Mao Wan laughed and went forward, putting his hand on Li Du's shoulder as if he didn't see him as an outsider. "It's okay, sit down and talk. Eat and drink as you like, it's not a big deal." However, Ding Ming still didn't sit down because he had already seen Du Mo and John. In the past few days, he also knew that Du Mo was the consultant hired by the rich bird. Ding Ming and Mao Wan sat down on the recliner together. Mao Wan affectionately put his arm around Ding Ming's shoulder. "Brother, forgive my poor eyesight, but I didn't see it on the ground. You really are a veteran in this field." Ding Ming smiled modestly and said, "Brother Luan, you flatter me. I'm just trying to make a living." Mao Wan said meaningfully, "But you're making a living too. Everyone's split is 8-2. You're 8-2, and they're 2. Are they really 2? Ding Ming smiled a little reluctantly. I've always spent a lot of money, so if there's anything that doesn't follow the rules, please point it out, Brother Luan." Mao Wan waved his hand. "It doesn't matter if there's something that doesn't follow the rules. On Cypress Goo Planet, those who have the ability are the bosses. They should eat and drink well. These are all trivial matters. As long as you can dig out the ore, not to mention 8-2, even 9-1 won't be a problem." Du Mo stood to the side and didn't say anything. He finally understood Ding Ming's intentions. He didn't know what kind of method this person had, but he was able to clearly see the location of the ore source at a glance. Of course, this was his ability, and Du Mo couldn't ask him about it in this kind of situation. Since he had this kind of ability, there was only a matter of time before all the coolies in the mine were alerted. Then, they would slowly have to listen to his orders. Once the amount of ore produced increased, Mao Wan above would be alerted. Du Mo suddenly opened his mouth. "Pardon me for asking, but what does Mr. Wild Wolf usually spend on?" Ding Ming was already prepared. He smiled and replied, "Actually, it's just some personal hobbies. It's just a bit more expensive." If a man's hobbies were expensive, under normal circumstances, it would be whoring. And the thing that was even more expensive than whoring was gambling. Of course, for origin ability users, the most expensive thing was still cultivation. Du Mo obviously didn't think Ding Ming was the kind of guy who liked to spend money, so he changed his words. "Mr. Wild Wolf is so professional in mining, so you must be an authoritative expert in the field of raw materials." "Advisor Du, you must be joking. I'm just an unorthodox person, so I definitely can't be compared to real authorities like you." Ding Ming was a little surprised in his heart. This Du Mo's mind was very active. He actually guessed the hint in his words. Since Du Mo could guess it, how could Mao Luan not understand it? Mao Luan suddenly clapped his hands and smiled. "Brother, you've worked hard these past few days. Do you want to relax?" Ding Ming was finally interested. Oh, how do I relax? Mao Wan smiled. Of course, you can relax however you want. Don't underestimate our Cypress planet. We can provide you with anything you want to play. There's nothing you can't play, only things you can't think of. Ding Ming didn't have time to answer this time. Duomo said in a deep voice, I think it's better for Mr. Wild Wolf to stay in the mining area. Mao Wan turned his head and smiled. Why? Duomo said, it seems that this place can't do without Mr. Wild Wolf. If Mr. Wild Wolf goes up, then who will be in command below? Mao Wan was still smiling, but that smile gave people an inexplicable chill. That's true. Student Du is, after all, the advisor of Fuguay Bird Company. Presumably, you have a lot of technical problems to discuss with Brother Wolf. It's better for the excavation of this project to end early. Dumo's heart sank. He also knew that Mao Wan wasn't a good person. The other party's answer seemed to be giving in, but in fact, he was secretly threatening him. Thus, he had to put on a show. I can understand Captain Mao's feelings of wanting to end this project early. In fact, I have the same idea as Captain Mao. I can't stay long on Cypress Grove Planet this time. I also want to end this project early and go back to school. This was a trick he had learned from Hua, using the name of Starlight University to pressure others. No matter how powerful the leader of the Extreme Pirate Corps was, could he be more powerful than a third-class citizen of the Federation? Mao Wan was still smiling, but the anger in his heart had been aroused. Although Duomo was young, he was quite experienced in dealing with things. His attitude was also very tough. He was not a pushover. Mao Wan clapped his hands again and said, well, I have a suggestion. Whether to go up or continue working, let's let Brother Wolf decide for himself. What do you think? Duomo said expressionlessly. Okay. Ding Ming coughed softly. Well, I don't care. But Captain Mao, the amount of or produced these days isn't bad, right? According to the rules, I seem to remember that there are dividends. Mao Wan was startled and suddenly laughed. I almost forgot about that. Okay, no problem, but I don't have the right to decide the dividends. Let's wait for Master Guan. Brother, if you want a reward, Master Guan will be here soon. Seeing Mao Wan's complacent look, an imperceptible cold light flashed across Dumo's eyes. Chapter 227. It was impossible for Guanbai to appear in this place for no reason, so Duomo slowly walked towards Ding Ming after Mao Wan left with his men. Ding Ming was still eating hu beans, ignoring the approaching Duomo. After all, his current identity was a miner recruited by the Extreme Thief Corps, so he did not need to pay too much attention to the technical consultant of the Wealthy Bird Corps. Although that was the case, Ding Ming was still very focused. This was because Duomo also gave him an extremely dangerous feeling. The reason was very simple. Even he couldn't see through this person's depth. Mr. Wolf, you are in a good mood. Duomo looked at him silently and said slowly, you can still eat in this place. Ding Ming put down the plate in his hand and smiled. I can't compare to the third-class citizens of the Federation. I am very satisfied to have something to eat. He purposely emphasized the words third-class citizen, clearly hinting at Hua's threat to the Russians. Dumo's expression was also somewhat apologetic. Sorry, my companions have caused you some trouble before, but Mr. Wolf seems to have some prejudice against me, right? Ding Ming said, I have no prejudice against you. Dumo's tone suddenly changed. But I have a prejudice against Mr. Wolf. Ding Ming curiously asked, oh. Duomo was about to speak when suddenly there was a burst of cheers from the West Passage. It's out, it's out, it's out. Not long after, Li Zhao rushed out and rushed to Ding Ming with a look of surprise on his face. Brother Wolf, it's out again this time. It's a new product. Ding Ming asked slowly, what kind of new product? Only then did Li Zhao realize that Duomo and John were also next to him, and his expression suddenly became hesitant. Ding Ming said lightly, it's all right. Mr. Du and Mr. John also have a right to know. Duomo did not respond, but he secretly praised Ding Ming's self-restraint. He had only met Ding Ming 3 times, and the impression that Ding Ming gave him was that he was too calm. Especially this time, because he had secretly activated part of his origin energy, Ding Ming actually turned a blind eye to it. He didn't know if Ding Ming didn't care or if Ding Ming didn't know. Li Zhao hesitated for a long time before whispering, "It should be a matrix container. The model is a bit old. There are a total of 12 of them." There was a lot of information in these words. The matrix containers were usually filled with energy bodies, which were usually silver core stones. Since the model was a little old, it meant that it was not a common model on the market. Then, there was only one possibility. The container must have been left here many years ago. It would have been fine if he hadn't dug up the core, but he had dug up 12 silver core stones. If there really were 12 silver core stones, this amount of wealth would be shocking. As expected, Dumo's and John's faces changed simultaneously. Ding Ming still had a calm expression. "Take them all out and let Mr. Du and the others have a look." This time, the crystal-carrying matrix wasn't a small metal box, but a large alloy container. Its volume was about the same as the Black Rock Knight's armor. This kind of box couldn't be lifted by a single person. It required 8 people to use tools to pry it up and then work together to lift it to the center of the warehouse. Moreover, these 8 people were all origin ability users. One could imagine how heavy the matrix container was this time. Hardadef quietly turned his head and glanced at Dumo. Dumo's face was dark, and he did not say anything, but he nodded slightly. Hardadef immediately knew what was going on. The batch of strategic materials left behind was probably this pile of matrix containers. The 12 large chests were connected together like a huge metal wall in front of everyone. Dao Su brought over a cleaner and quickly washed the soil and sand on the surface of the boxes. Only then did the boxes reveal their original blue color. They looked smooth and flat, full of a brand new texture. The crystal-carrying matrix containers were different from the old boxes they had dug up before. After all, they were made of multi-grade alloy. Even if they were buried underground for decades, or even centuries, they wouldn't rust. Thus, the symbol on the surface of the boxes was now clearly visible to the naked eye. Under the palm-sized touchscreen sensor device was an exquisite image of a meteor shower. Little Rascal immediately said, "That's the symbol of the Holy Grail Federation's Starbow group." "That's right." Ding Ming nodded inwardly. He activated his telekinesis vision again and scanned the boxes one by one. In fact, he had already scanned the exact location of these boxes, so he wasn't surprised by Li Zhao's report. However, at this time, something that really surprised him happened. He saw that wherever his telekinetic vision swept, the telekinetic wave could penetrate the metal and see what was inside. The first box was filled with purple crystals of extremely high purity. The second box was filled with almost transparent, rough diamond stones, which were definitely of high quality. The third box was filled with a polygonal stone, which was probably the silver core stone. The fourth box. The first 7 boxes were filled with normal items, all within Ding Ming's scope of understanding. However, when he scanned the 8th box, an unprecedented chill surged into Ding Ming's heart. It was as if danger was approaching, and all the hairs on his body stood on end. His telekinesis vision had disappeared. "What's going on?" Ding Ming was beyond shocked. Ever since he had obtained telekinesis vision, such a strange situation had never occurred before. Little Rascal and Little AI didn't say anything. Clearly, they couldn't answer his question. Ding Ming took a deep breath. He activated his telekinesis vision again, and the spherical light waves spread out in all directions. This time, his telekinesis vision spread out very slowly, but it could easily penetrate, inspect, and scan the surrounding people and objects. However, as soon as he touched the 8th box, his telekinesis vision disappeared with a whoosh. Ding Ming's vision quickly returned to normal. This. Ding Ming was clearly frightened. "Try it again," Xiao AI prompted. Ding Ming did as he was told. This time, his casting speed was even slower, and he directly released a telekinesis wave at the 8th box. 5 seconds later, his telekinesis vision disappeared without a trace. The same strange phenomenon occurred 3 times in a row. However, Ding Ming was finally able to see clearly this time. His telekinesis vision hadn't disappeared. Instead, his telekinesis wave had been instantly sucked into the box. This disappearance was different from when he had investigated Colonel Fong and Sister Zhong. The origin energy fluctuations of those powerhouses were too strong, and his telekinesis wave couldn't penetrate them. Instead, it was reflected back. However, this box seemed to have some sort of strange magic that could actually absorb his telekinesis vision. It was truly mysterious. Of course, one thing was certain now. The things inside these boxes were no small matter. Perhaps they were the things that the Fuguwei Bird Company wanted to dig up. Duomo stepped forward and checked the serial numbers on the boxes one by one. XHS 341, XHS 342, XHS 343, XHS 344. After checking all 12 boxes, Duomo clapped his hands. Everyone, thank you for your hard work during this period of time. Now, I'll have to trouble you to move these containers to the appraisal table. Mr. Hardadef, please help me appraise them. You can exchange them for reward points however you want. In addition, the Fuguwei Bird Company will distribute a reward of 5,000 star coins to everyone who contributed. Whoosh! There was a burst of cheers all around. After that, the coolies excitedly went to pry open the boxes. Li Zhao, Dao Su, and the others didn't care about their physical exhaustion. They were also panting as they lifted the boxes, but they were stopped by Duomo. Don't touch this container. Leave it here for now. I still need to do some further research. Duomo was stopping the 8th box. He was the technical consultant here, and since he had given the order, Li Zhao and the others had no choice but to do as he said. No, this container needs to be lifted up as well. Lift it back to the surface, Ding Ming said expressionlessly. Huh? Duomo, Li Zhao, and the others turned their heads at the same time. Everyone's eyes were filled with surprise. Li Zhao was surprised because Ding Ming dared to go against the consultant of the Fuguwei Bird Company, while Duomo was surprised because he never expected that Ding Ming would find out the problem. At this moment, his face finally darkened, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Neither of them spoke again, but the confrontation between them was obvious. If they didn't handle it well, they might start a fight. The coolies all took a few steps back. Duomo stared at Ding Ming. His face was very pale, but his tone was slow and firm. Everyone, do as I say. Move the containers out of here. Everyone else, please go to the appraisal table and wait. As for Mr. Wolf, stay here with this container. It's necessary for us to discuss technical issues. None of the coolies present were fools. They understood the underlying meaning of his words. What Duomo wanted to discuss was not technical issues, but military issues. No one in the mining area dared to go against the Fuguwei Bird Company in public. Even the senior members of the extreme thieves couldn't talk to them in such a tone. Everyone moved quickly. When most of them went up, only Duomo, Ding Ming, and the huge metal box were left in the underground warehouse. Duomo kept staring at Ding Ming. After a long time, he asked in a very calm tone, "How do you know?" Ding Ming had been on guard against Duomo for a long time. He knew very well that Duomo was not someone who could be easily fooled, so he admitted frankly, "I have my ways." Duomo suddenly lowered his head and gently clenched his fingers. His knuckles immediately made a slight cracking sound. If the container is moved to the surface, it will be difficult for Mao Wan not to notice it. Yes. Ding Ming also stared at Duomo's fingers. Duomo's hands were very similar to Dai Yi's. They were slender, and white, just like a pair of real women's hands. I'm curious. Since you're not a member of the extreme thieves, why do you always want to serve them? Duomo continued to pinch Ding Ming's knuckles. Ding Ming said lightly, "Even if I don't serve them, you can't expect the Fuguwei Bird Company to take the container for themselves." Duomo began to pace slowly beside the box. The Fuguwei Bird Company can't take it for themselves, but it is unrealistic for other forces to take it for themselves. Ding Ming frowned. "Oh, there are other forces?" Duomo snorted. "Of course there are, because you are one of them." Ding Ming couldn't help laughing. "This is the first time I've heard someone call me a force." Duomo was also laughing, but his smile was cold. "The reason is simple. Because you're not a real wolf at all." Chapter 228. The underground storeroom suddenly became quiet. It was so quiet that even the soft sound of boots stepping on the sand could be heard clearly. Mo was still pacing slowly, but the sound of his footsteps made the atmosphere suddenly tense. Ding Ming still looked very calm. He was not surprised at all. He was silent, and then he asked the same question. How did you know? Mo nodded. There is indeed a member called Wild Wolf in the Raid mercenary group. The information displayed is indeed from the K8 system of the K Galaxy. He is mining in a black gold base called the Dead Silent Star. At first, I also believed that the information was true. If it wasn't, you wouldn't have been able to come down here. Ding Ming had to admit this. Appearances could be disguised, but identity could not be faked. The mercenaries of the extreme pirate group were not incompetent. Their scanners could detect this. It's just that. Mo's tone changed again. There's information that confirms that a great disaster happened on the Dead Silent Star about a year ago. The entire black gold base was destroyed. No one on the ground or underground escaped. May I ask, how did a fake wild wolf like you escape? Ding Ming was also slightly surprised. He did not expect Mo to be so meticulous. He even found out about such confidential information. Xiao AI immediately said, there is indeed such a possibility. Fuguei Niao has a close relationship with Haitian Group, and he was hired by Fuguei Niao as a consultant. There is a certain probability that he found out some information about the Dead Silent Star. Ding Ming also nodded. You're very good. Mo stopped. I want to ask you one more question. Ding Ming said, since you've answered me, feel free to ask me any questions you have. Mo pondered and said, what is your relationship with Haitian Group? Maybe I can help you. Instead of asking about Ding Ming's real identity and intentions, he asked such a question. It was not until now that Ding Ming truly saw him in a new light. The fact that Mo could obtain information about the disaster on the Dead Silent Star from other sources proved that he was very cautious and meticulous. Now that he had heard about it, he must have guessed that Ding Ming was in disguise. The mutagenic cultivation method and the 1,000 shadow foil were essentially undetectable by other people. But from another perspective, these things could not withstand too much scrutiny in the eyes of experts or those who were meticulous. There was a thing called free proof. When one suspected something, one did not need any evidence. Most of the time, the wisdom and thoughts of human beings were more than 10 times more powerful than martial arts and mystical items. Back then, Lan Bing had gone to great lengths to become a refugee. Her plan had been flawless, but in the end, Ding Ming had seen through her. Mo judged that Ding Ming was not working for the Extreme Pirate Corps, but was going against the Fuguei bird, so he immediately thought of the Haitian Group. It was quite impressive for him to be able to ask such a question. Ding Ming immediately felt a sense of crisis. Even a random student from Starlight University was so extraordinary. The aristocratic schools of the Federal Empire were indeed places with crouching tigers and hidden dragons. At this moment, Ding Ming felt that this trip to Cyprus' ancient planet had been a little too hasty. From the moment he landed on the ground to hear, no one he had met was a weakling. Before he set off, Jing Hao's warning was right. The Extreme Pirate Corps was not as easy to deal with as he thought. Ding Ming said in a low voice, since you asked me this, it seems that you are not working for the Haitian Group. Mo was silent. Then he said, maybe we are not enemies. Ding Ming said, it better not be. Mo said, but if you insist on sending this container to the ground, then I'm afraid we are going to be enemies soon. Ding Ming sighed helplessly. It seems that we are already enemies. Before he could finish the word already, Mo had disappeared. Among all the origin ability users that Ding Ming had met, whether it was the initial girlfriend Xing Yi or Salazar Mengyan, they were not as fast as Mo. He was so fast that he had reached Ding Ming's flank in the blink of an eye. When he appeared, he had already made his move. The move he used was also Ding Ming's best skill, the backhand chop. This kind of speed was like an ordinary person who sometimes had visual and auditory hallucinations. You thought there was something strange beside you, but when you turned your head, you realized that there was nothing. But if the strange movement was replaced by Mo, when you turned your head, you would not see anything. This move was also shocking once it was made. It was obvious that he had been taught by a real combat expert. The moment he made a move, he had to defeat the opponent. But unfortunately, Du Mo's opponent was Ding Ming. Ding Ming was good at backhand chop, so he naturally knew how to deal with this move. He raised his right elbow slightly, and his elbow hit the center of Du Mo's palm. There was a muffled bang sound. It sounded like the air had exploded. Then there was a long chi sound. Du Mo's whole body was shaken, and he slid backwards. The heels of his boots sent mud and stones flying. It was not until he slid 3 or 4 meters away that he was able to stabilize his body. When he raised his head again, the shock in his eyes could not be concealed. If you were a senior, Du Mo would like to thank you. He was an expert. He knew that Ding Ming's seemingly casual raise of his hand had a considerable level of attainment in terms of timing, strength, position, and collapsing force. In his mind, there were very few such experts in outer space. At least, there were no such people in the Major Corps. Therefore, in his subconscious, he had already regarded Ding Ming as a certain big shot of the Federation in disguise. Ding Ming stared at him. I just said that we better not be enemies. Otherwise, the one who will regret it will definitely not be me. Hearing his answer, Du Mo could not help but grit his teeth and say, then it might not be me. This time, he did not use a light speed ability. Instead, he took a step forward and slapped the crystal-carrying matrix beside him with his palms. The huge box was actually sent flying by him. It tumbled through the air and smashed towards Ding Ming. Ding Ming was also surprised. Lightspeed ability, users focused on the word fast. However, this guy's strength was far beyond that of an ordinary person. The crystal-carrying matrix weighed at least 4 or 5 tons. It was sent flying by a single slap. As soon as the box came crashing down, Ding Ming could no longer stand still. There was a muffled bang. Ding Ming, who was retreating, caught the bottom of the box with his palm. However, at this moment, Du Mo appeared behind him with a swish and chopped at him again. He did not aim for anything else but Ding Ming's left arm, which was holding the box. If he had really hit him, the box would have directly pressed Ding Ming into the ground. However, it was as if Ding Ming had eyes on the back of his head. Du Mo's lightning-fast attack was suddenly dodged by Ding Ming. The moment he retracted his left arm, he used his right hand to hold the box. The whole box only dropped a little. Ding Ming had actually used such a clever method to avoid such a swift and fierce attack. Du Mo's reaction was extremely fast. His transient steps sneak attack had failed, and he quickly changed his move. He immediately changed his right hand's back cut to his left elbow. At the same time, his whole body pulled an illusion forward. It was obvious that he had used a higher level ability. It was still the same old saying. His opponent was Ding Ming. If it had been anyone else, even if this elbow attack had missed, the box would have been enough to make the opponent suffer. This time, Ding Ming did not dodge. Instead, he directly faced Du Mo head-on. Ding Ming also raised his left elbow and struck backward. With a boom, their elbows collided. The air in the middle of the warehouse immediately exploded, and countless stones and sand flew up like rain. In this rain of sand, Du Mo's figure slid backward again. He had been knocked back by Ding Ming again, and this time he slid farther, about 15 meters. When he regained his footing, Ding Ming kicked the bottom of the box with his boot, and the whole box flew backward toward him. His meaning was clear. You want to hit me with the box? Fine, I'll hit you back in the same way. Ding Ming had calculated his strength. At this time, Du Mo definitely had not regained his footing. Seeing the huge and cumbersome chest whizzing towards him, Du Mo had no other choice. His figure once again disappeared with a schwa sound. The chest heavily hit the ground and rolled a few times before coming to a stop. Du Mo used transient steps again and stood on top of the chest. This time, Du Mo did not continue to attack. He looked at Ding Ming silently. After a long time, he sighed slightly. It seemed that his whole body had relaxed. Then he cupped his hands toward Ding Ming and said, "Thank you. Du Mo has learned a lot." He thanked Ding Ming for showing mercy. The reason was simple. Ding Ming did not even use any martial arts, but he had already forced him to retreat twice. It would be futile to continue fighting. Ding Ming also looked at him from afar. You're not bad either. There was a reason for his praise. Du Mo knew the severity of the situation. Although he had used transient steps, he did not dare to use his full strength. If the two of them used their origin energy, this place would definitely collapse. Once they made a big noise, the ground would be disturbed. It would be hard to say who would win by then, but there was no need to arouse the suspicion of the extreme pirate army. Du Mo jumped down from the box and murmured with a sigh, "My mentor always lectured me that there are crouching tigers and hidden dragons, not only in the Federation, but also in outer space. I didn't believe it before, but now I truly believe it." No doubt, he was curious about Ding Ming's real identity. Ding Ming could not help but smile. "It's easy for you to know who I am," Du Mo said. "Oh." Ding Ming stepped forward and knocked on the box a few times. "Tell me what's inside?" Du Mo sighed. "I'm afraid you won't believe me even if I tell you, because even I don't know." Ding Ming stared at him. "But you insist on keeping this container?" Du Mo said, "Because I know its serial number. It's XHS 348. Ding Ming asked, "What do you mean?" Du Mo said, "It means that it's an S-grade material of the Star Rainbow Group. Serial number 348. That's the only thing I know. As for what's inside, I really don't know." Ding Ming was silent. Then he said, "Have you ever thought that this container is not only sought by the Fuguway Bird Company, but also by the extreme pirate army?" Du Mo said, "I know." Ding Ming said, "However, it's not up to you and me to decide who it ends up in." Du Mo's eyes suddenly lit up. "So, it's necessary to send it to the ground?" Ding Ming smiled. "Very good. You finally thought it through this time." Chapter 229. In the open space at the entrance of the shuttle ladder, a carrier ship was docked. All the coolies from the mining area were moving the crystal-carrying matrices they found to the starship. The entrance to the checkpoint was naturally guarded by a large group of mercenaries. Mao Wan was naturally there as well, but this time he wasn't sitting down. Instead, he was standing obediently behind a person. There was a chair in the open space, and the man was sitting on it. The other mercenaries were guarding around him. The man was not tall, and he was a little short, but his gestures were more dignified than Mao Wan's. Obviously, he was a senior member of the Extreme Pirate Corps, because only these crystal-carrying matrices could alarm the senior members. Mao Wan trotted over with a flattering smile. "Mr. Guan, the dividends have been distributed. I have counted the people. Now only Du Mo and Wolf haven't come up." Guanbai nodded with satisfaction. "You have worked hard." Mao Wan immediately bowed his head. "It's my duty," Guanbai said. "Then we will wait." Mao Wan did not dare to object. Okay. They did not wait for too long. About half an hour later, the entrance door opened to both sides, and the shuttle ladder rose. Ding Ming and Du Mo came out with huge boxes. As soon as they came out, the surrounding mercenaries surrounded them and aimed their guns at the two of them. Du Mo's face changed. "Captain Mao, what do you mean?" Mao Wan stepped forward and coughed. That in the distance, Guanbai waved his hand lightly. "Put away your weapons. Mr. Du is a VIP. Don't be rude." The guns were put away quickly, but the problem was that the mercenaries were not polite to them. They took out their tools again, and dozens of people pried the boxes up. It seemed that they were going to carry them to the starship. Guanbai immediately waved to Ding Ming and Du Mo, motioning them to come forward and talk. Du Mo's face was obviously unhappy. "Mr. Guan, it doesn't seem right for you to take the goods away like this." Guanbai showed a gentle smile. "Mr. Du is young and promising. I admire you for finding the goods in such a short time. The representative of your company has arrived here. He is a guest of the head of the company. I have been entrusted by the head of the company to pick up Mr. Du and the goods. As for how to deal with the goods, it will be up to the two families to negotiate." Du Mo was silent for a while before he said, "Since that's the case, then I thank Captain Liu for your kind intentions. As for being a guest, I don't have to." Guanbai was a little surprised. "Oh, why?" Du Mo said. "Leader Guan, I was asked by the school to come here as a technical guide. Now that the container has been found, my task can be considered completed. There are a few students who came with me. They are here for sightseeing. It's better for me to meet them as soon as possible because it's time for us to go back. Guanbai's expression seemed to be a little regretful. In fact, he wanted to befriend this proud son of Starlight University, but the other side didn't give him a chance. There was nothing he could do. Since it's like this, then I'll immediately arrange a ship to send Mr. Du out of the port. Du smiled and waved his hand. Captain Guan, you're too polite. We're all students, so it's better for us to take the Tian public safety boat. All right then. Guanbai sighed helplessly. Then his eyes fell on Ding Ming. This is Mr. Wolf, right? Ding Ming immediately stepped forward. Hello. Guanbai turned to look at Mao Wan. Has Mr. Wolf received his bonus? He obviously knew the specific situation of the mine. Qian Jinghong and Li Zhao had a lot of points, but the real hero of discovering the crystal-carrying matrix of Xinhong Group was Ding Ming. Mao Wan had already turned on his wrist device and walked over with a gentle smile on his face. Brother, you're in luck. Mr. Guan values talents very much. Here's a bonus of 500,000 star coins. Why don't you thank Mr. Guan? Wait. Ding Ming decisively waved his hand to stop him. The bonus I want is not this. Mao Wan was stunned. Then what do you want? Ding Ming coldly replied. Captain Mao, I remember you saying before that as long as you can dig out the goods, you can even get a 90% bonus. Mao Wan's expression changed. Kid, don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. If you don't believe me, ask the people around you. Which one of them has a bonus of more than 100,000 star coins? Giving you 500,000 is because Mr. Guan is taking extra care of you. Ding Ming was too lazy to listen to his explanation. Instead, he pointed at the box and said, This crystal-carrying matrix is made of platinum red crystal metal. It was a common material on the market more than 100 years ago. Although it's not a liquid polymer alloy, this material is very rare nowadays. It's very rare and has a lot of research value. Just these 12 containers alone cost more than 80 million star coins. I spent a lot of effort to find them, and now you want to send me packing with 500,000 star coins? Do you think I'm a beggar? Mao Wan was furious. Do you know who you're talking to? Ding Ming's words were definitely not meant for him to hear. It was a risky gamble. He spoke so professionally, casually, because little rascal taught him in secret. The purpose was to attract Guanbai's attention. He made such a big fuss in the underground mining area just to attract the attention of the top leaders of the extreme pirate force. There was only one reason. Cyprus' ancient planet was so big, the underground area was so complicated, and there were dozens of large starships floating around the planet. He had no idea where the nest of the extreme pirate force was. If he and Meng Yin searched the area one by one, they would not be able to find it even after a few years. However, if he could get in touch with the top leaders of the extreme pirate force, it would be much easier. Sure enough, Guanbai waved her hand casually, and Mao Wan retreated with a sullen face. Brother Wolf, I heard that you used to be a raider? Guanbai looked at him with interest. Ding Ming said, Yes, I've been in this line for many years. If it weren't for your high recruitment price, I wouldn't have come all the way here. Guanbai simply asked directly, Then how much do you want? Ding Ming said, I don't want money. Oh, Guanbai was stunned. Then what do you want? Ding Ming's eyes fell into the distance. The mercenaries were using engineering vehicles to lift boxes onto the starship. I want a container. Guanbai smiled meaningfully. You have a big appetite. Ding Ming sneered. I know myself. What's inside has nothing to do with me. I just want to scrape some material from the surface of the container and take it back for research. Anyway, many people don't need such a container now. I might as well turn it into a treasure. Guanbai did not answer him directly. Instead, she turned her head and glanced at Mao Wan. Mao Wan also remembered that Ding Ming had said in the underground mining area that his expenses had always been high because he was an authoritative expert in raw materials. So Mao Wan nodded slightly, indicating that this was indeed the case. Guanbai smiled. I wonder what Brother Wolf wants to research. Ding Ming said, The raiding starships have always been repaired a lot. My materials can be sold at a high price. This answer was watertight. The raiding starship's transportation capacity was indeed incomparable to all the other starships. This was completely reasonable. Guanbai nodded with satisfaction. Brother Wolf, in fact, our starships also need to be repaired. Are you interested in repairing our port? How much money did Shi Qing pay you? Guanbai can double it. Shi Qing was the chief commander of the raiding starships. Since Guanbai dared to speak so directly, it was obvious that he wanted to poach him. Anyway, the two families were far apart. Shi Qing couldn't possibly come to Cypress Star, could he? He also knew that Ding Ming had traveled thousands of miles to Cypress Star to search for treasures. How many mercenaries like him did not love money? Ding Ming suddenly sneered. Master Guan, in our line of work, we definitely come to search for treasures for money. But it's not appropriate to break the rules just for money. Since I'm working for the raiding starships, I naturally have to work for President Shi. Guanbai also smiled. His smile was full of meaning. If you think that I, Guanbai, am trying to steal Shi Qing's woman, you are wrong. Oh, Ding Ming frowned. Guanbai said, Brother Wolf, you should know that we, the Extreme Pirate Corps, have always been paid to do things. You get what you pay for. Similarly, if we pay you, we also ask others to do things for us. Ding Ming hesitated and said, Master Guan, do you want me to work for the Extreme Pirate Corps? Guanbai waved his hand and said, You're wrong. It's the Extreme Pirate Corps that asks you to do things for us. It's a fair trade. As soon as he said this, Ding Ming knew in his heart that things were going in the direction he had predicted. He was not afraid of Guanbai raising the price, but he was afraid that the other party would not open his mouth. Ding Ming said, What does Master Guan want me to do? Guanbai pondered and said, I heard that the top talent in your line of work can determine the value of a treasure by its appearance, position, color, and traces with just a glance when digging for treasures. Is that true? That's right. Ding Ming nodded. In fact, he was really an authority in this field. For example, when a piece of gold-bearing shale was unearthed, he could immediately determine how much gold sand it contained by its appearance, volume, color, texture, and degree of corrosion. Basically, all the laborers who had worked in the black gold base for more than 3 years had this ability. Brother Wolf also has this ability, right? Guanbai stared at him. Ding Ming knew that there must be a deeper meaning to his question, so he replied in a low voice, These 12 boxes of goods have been buried underground for at least 80 years. To be exact, it's about 83 years. Compared to the containers themselves, the goods inside are of higher quality. Moreover, they were buried in the form of a closed warehouse. I believe that there are at least top-grade crystals in them. Guanbai suddenly clapped his hands and said, Brother Wolf is really the best in this line of work. Then please come on board. Welcome to our Extreme Pirate Corps. Ding Ming hesitated for a while and said, Then I'll accept your invitation. Thank you for your kindness. Chapter 230. After the carrier lifted off, it flew into space, which was completely within Ding Ming's expectations. Because Little Rascal had hypothesized for him before, if I were the chief commander of the Extreme Pirate Corps, I would not have built my base on Cypress Goo. First of all, the underground city market on Cypress Goo had already taken shape. The Extreme Pirate Corps could make a fortune with the tax commission, so there was no need to build their base underground. If there was a riot, everyone's source of income would be affected. Secondly, there was no need to build a base on the ground, because for the radar on the starship, the ground was completely exposed to the enemy's vision. Therefore, one of the 40 or 50 large starships drifting around Cypress Goo was the real base of the Extreme Pirate Corps. Such general-purpose giant ice starships had been abandoned by the Star Rainbow Group when the War of the Swallowing Sector broke out many years ago. They looked no different from building blocks in appearance. When the square boxes, large and small, were stacked together, they looked like iron buildings in space. Today's mainstream transport starships of the Holy Grail Federation could not be of this shape. Take the carrier starship provided to Ding Ming as an example. In terms of shape, it was more reasonable and scientific than this giant ice starship. Although it was much smaller in size, its technology and equipment were more advanced, and its endurance and acceleration performance were stronger. It was suitable for activities in more complex star fields. Starships from 80 or 90 years ago were definitely outdated, but they were not completely without advantages. This giant eye had a huge capacity, almost half the size of a miniature International Space Station. It was precisely because the technology was not as developed as it was today that the starships built at that time were more durable. If they encountered an attack ship, it would be easy for them to withstand 6 or 7 rounds of conventional shipborne firepower. The 45 giant eyes that were drifting around Cypress goo had been modified countless times. The external patches were really dazzling and varied. Although Ding Ming did not understand starship technology, he did not underestimate these starships because they were definitely not as shabby as they looked on the surface. Ding Ming even had a feeling that these giant eyes could even withstand a round of bombardment from a railgun. However, even though Ding Ming was mentally prepared in advance, he still did not expect that the coordinates of the carrier ship turned out to be the outermost starship of the entire bogus planet. The ship looked like 3 flat boxes stacked on top of each other. The middle layer was particularly prominent and extended to both sides for a long time. The appearance of the ship was also very shabby. It was impossible to tell that this was the nest of the pirates. Most importantly, it was floating at the outermost edge, as if it wasn't worried about being attacked by enemies at all, because it would be the first to be attacked. Little Rascals said, "That's not necessarily true. This bandit group has done a lot of bad things. They must have a lot of enemies. If they really encounter a disaster, you will be the first to be beaten and the first to be able to escape. This bandit leader is quite smart." Ding Ming agreed with the judgment. Although it was dangerous to stop at the periphery, it was also the starship that could detect danger first. After he disembarked from the carrier ship, the situation in the reception port completely overturned Ding Ming's imagination. There was not the slightest common facilities on a starship in this place. If he had not seen it with his own eyes, Ding Ming would have suspected that he was on the ground of the Flying Star City again. Yes, the place looked exactly like a city on the surface of the planet. 4 semi-arc-shaped buildings that looked quite modern were standing on a beach. They were not exactly skyscrapers, but each of them was 30 floors high. Crystal projectors have been installed on the top floor of the buildings, projecting glamorous words that read Extreme Pirate Legion. The 4 buildings happened to form a circle. At the center of the circle was a blue artificial lake. The lake alone was estimated to be 100,000 square meters in size. A cross-trunk channel was built on the lake for spaceships to land and vehicles to pass through. The place was surrounded by green lawns and thriving coconut trees. The blue lake and the green shade made it even more comfortable and pleasant. At the periphery of the base was a boundless ocean. Above his head was a clear blue sky. Under the sunlight, the surface of the lake was sparkling and charming. The seawater was even more intoxicating. Xiao AI suddenly opened her mouth. They must have separated this floor of the starship into an enormous space. According to my detection, the ocean and the sky are simulated by the crystal system, but the buildings and the lake are real. The other facilities and units of the starship should be in other cabins outside of this space. There's a 90% chance that this place is the nest of the Extreme Bandit Group. Ding Ming asked in a low voice, "Can you show me the map of the entire starship?" "Not yet," Xiao AI replied. Ding Ming was dazed. "Why not? Last time in the Flying Star City, I was able to detect all the maps because of the technological energy of the silver core stones," Xiao AI said. "But this time, the energy inside your body comes from the toxins of the V4 planet, which does not boast such a function. Of course, I'm confident that I can simulate the structure of the 4 buildings, but it will take some time." Ding Ming asked, "How long will it take?" Xiao AI replied, "According to my calculations, it will take at least 6 hours." Ding Ming was even more surprised. "Why is it so long?" Little Rascal also spoke up. "Ding Ming, this building is not as simple as it looks on the surface. It has a lot of defensive functions, and all of them are high-tech systems. There are also underground facilities. We estimate that that's the control center." Ding Ming took a deep breath. After spending so much time and effort, he had finally made it to this place. He had not thought of a way to seek justice for the refugees of the Green Arrow base yet, but he was now experienced in sabotage. To be more precise, he was an expert in sabotage. Just wait and see how I'm going to teach you bastard the lesson this time. Ding Ming made up his mind. As the carrier landed on the empty beach, Ding Ming learned from Yi Mao Wan that the 4 buildings were divided into buildings 1, 2, 3, and 4. All the foreign VIPs were usually arranged to stay in Building 1. The entrance of the building was the main road in the shape of a cross. It was not until he came here that Ding Ming discovered that there was a circular apron at the center of the cross. At this moment, all kinds of flying cars and shuttles were parked there. Ding Ming had never seen many of them before, but Little Rascal was already explaining to him, none of these cars are sold for less than 5 million star coins. They're all good cars. It was obvious that Ding Ming was not the only VIPs that the Extreme Pirate Army was welcoming this time. It was not until he entered the first floor of Building 1 that Ding Ming discovered that it was a super hall similar to a banquet hall. The hall was illuminated by all kinds of dazzling lights. The north side was like a performance stage. Not only were there more lights, but there were also crystal projectors, microphones, and other video and voice devices. More than 10 delicate long tables and chairs were arranged around the stage. At this moment, the VIPs invited by the Extreme Pirate Army were sitting around the tables in 2s and 3s. Almost every one of them was dressed up. The men were in suits and leather shoes, looking handsome, while the women were in formal dresses, looking gorgeous and elegant. Even Mao Wan was not qualified to enter such an occasion. Ding Ming followed Guan Bai and went straight to a long table on the left side of the stage. 3 men in suits were standing there. Before they really got close, Ding Ming had already sensed 3 extraordinary waves of origin energy. The first wave was very regular. It spread out in circles like radio waves. It was the most authentic origin energy of the thermodynamic class. The wave was not strong, but Ding Ming did not underestimate it all. It was exactly because it was so regular that it proved that the cultivation of the Extreme Pirate Army had reached the peak of perfection. In fact, Ding Ming had learned from the Norse Empire that the waves were only one of the standards to judge someone's capability. If you wanted to see the real capability of a person, you could only see it in a battle. The second wave was vigorous and heavy, emitting an aura silently like a mountain. It was obviously a body-hardening technique. The third wave was the most powerful one. It was the standard thermodynamic class. Apart from everything else, the temperature of the hall was quite hot. Ding Ming noticed that a lot of cold air was spurting out of the air slots on the ceiling. Avatars suddenly appeared on Xiao AI's screen, showing the detailed information of the 3 men in Ding Ming's vision. Hu Biao, commander of the 4th Regiment of the Extreme Pirate Army, Mao Zhan, commander of the 2nd Regiment of the Extreme Pirate Army, and Lu Ming, chief commander of the Extreme Pirate Army. The 3 of them were all in suits, shirts, leather shoes, and ties. However, this outfit could not hide the fierce and aggressive temperament of the mercenaries. Mao Zhan, in the middle, was particularly tall and strong. He was simply a human-shaped steel plate. Of course, Ding Ming's attention fell on Hu Biao. This man had a disgusting face. There was a twisted scar at the corner of his mouth, which made people feel very uncomfortable. Anyway, he was the kind of ruthless man who gave people a bad impression at first glance. Compared with the ruthlessness of these 2 men, Lu Ming, as the chief commander of the Extreme Pirate Army, looked much better. He had good facial features, a handsome face, and a well-tailored blue suit. He was full of gentlemanly demeanor and the mature charm of a middle-aged man. As soon as Guan Bai returned, Lu Ming took the initiative to greet him. "Old Guan, thank you for your hard work. Why don't I see Mr. Du and Mo?" Guan Bai's tone was a little regretful. Mr. Du didn't want to come up. He went back to the Federation first. Oh. Lu Ming also looked a little disappointed. Guan Bai introduced him again. "Old Lu, this is Wild Wolf, the #1 contributor to the excavation of this batch of goods. I brought him up to broaden his horizons." Lu Ming obviously had no interest in Ding Ming. He just gently raised his chin as a greeting. "Thank you for your hard work, brother." There was no other way. Ding Ming's image had never been good. He had always looked like a savage who had rolled in the mud. Guanbai really gave him a lot of face by bringing Ding Ming to this place on such an occasion. Chapter 231. After Ding Ming sat down, he did not stay idle. He secretly opened his telekinesis vision and slowly spread it out in all directions. There were a total of 15 tables in the banquet hall, with a total of 86 guests. They formed a square with the stage, leaving an empty space in the middle. These people were dressed similarly, and there was nothing special about them based on their energy fluctuations. However, the first and second tables opposite them were empty. Obviously, there were guests who had not arrived yet. At the third table sat John from the Fuguway Bird Company, as well as 3 young people who were holding miniature optical computers. They looked like they were having a heated discussion. Other than that, there were only well-trained waiters who were dressed neatly and carried wine trays. They quietly shuttled back and forth between the tables, serving the guests with fine wine and delicacies. Although they were called delicacies, they were nothing more than a few plates of exquisite fruits and snacks. It was impossible to have a feast in such an occasion, and no one was in the mood to eat and drink. "Dear guest, what would you like to drink?" A beautiful waitress with a rather attractive appearance came to the table politely. Ding Ming's eyes flashed, and he said in a low voice, "A cup of yellow fruit wine." "Okay, please wait a moment." The waitress turned and left. In less than a minute, the waitress brought the wine over. This yellow fruit wine had a low alcohol content, but it looked like a large cup of wine. When Ding Ming took it, he deliberately held the waitress's small white hand and did not let go. This made the waitress blush. Hu Biao, who was sitting to the side, could not help but sneer. "I didn't expect you to like this. After this, there are as many as you want upstairs. Brother Wolf, you can take your time to choose." This was to remind Ding Ming not to mess around in public. Ding Ming smiled bitterly and said, "Sorry, I haven't seen the sun for many days in the mine. I can't hold it in. I've embarrassed myself in front of Brother Biao." Hu Biao laughed dryly and turned his head away, ignoring him. At this time, there was quite a commotion at the main entrance. Lu Ming was personally receiving people. Taking advantage of this gap, Ding Ming's wrist trembled slightly, and the T-shaped claw blade slipped into his sleeve. With a handy weapon, he felt more confident. At this time, a beautiful woman walked in from outside the door. She was wearing a very eye-catching dark purple dress. Her shoulders and back were exposed, and her smooth skin could be seen at a glance. There was a sparkling diamond necklace around her neck. Her dress didn't reach her knees, and her pair of white and slender legs were wearing strappy black high heels. She looked elegant and mature. However, her expression was arrogant and cold because she only nodded her head slightly in response to Lu Ming's polite greeting. As for the other people in the hall, she did not even look them in the eye. Beside the beauty was a man and a woman. Both of them were wearing brown sunglasses that covered their faces. Their origin ability energy fluctuations were quite shocking. Obviously, they were bodyguards. Under the escort of the bodyguards, the beauty leisurely walked to the second table and sat down by herself. During this entire process, no one said a word, which was enough to show how powerful this person's aura was. It was rare that Little Rascal did not comment, because he was already explaining to Ding Ming. Su Mengqing, 33 years old, an A-list celebrity in the Holy Grail Federation's entertainment circle. She has been in the entertainment circle for 7 years now and has acted in 11 extremely high box office movies. She has received countless awards, and this year, she even won the Best Newcomer Art Award in the Federation. In addition, she often guest stars in the Star Wars League. She is very popular, and her fans have exceeded 4.6 billion. To have such achievements at her age, she can be considered a star shining brightly. Ding Ming nodded inwardly. No wonder Lu Ming wanted to personally receive her. Little Rascal said, "She's not as simple as you think." Ding Ming asked curiously, "Oh, is there a saying behind this?" Little Rascal said, "These celebrities in the entertainment circle all have the support of powerful figures behind them. Otherwise, how could they become so popular?" Ding Ming had never heard of the entertainment circle before, so it was normal that he did not know much about it. Little Rascal continued. According to various sources, this Su Mengqing was made famous by the Starbao Corporation. Ding Meng said in realization. No wonder someone like her came to visit the infamous Cypress planet. It's most likely that the Starbao Corporation is eyeing this batch of containers. Little Rascal nodded and said, very likely. If the Starbao Corporation directly sent a representative here, they probably wouldn't even be able to enter. However, if it was a big star like this, no one would dare stop them. Su Mingqing's aura was indeed powerful. After she sat down, the others in the hall were still chatting with each other, but their voices were clearly much quieter. However, Ding Meng's table was the left-hand seat, while Su Mingqing's table was the right-hand seat. Her gaze inevitably fell to the left. When she saw Guan Bai, Hu Biao, and Mao Zhan, she was basically expressionless. However, when her gaze swept over Ding Meng, she frowned slightly. Then, she turned her head and gave a few instructions to the bodyguard next to her. Not long after, a male waiter walked over from the back passage. He lowered his head and said to Guan Bai, Master Guan, Miss Su thinks that there shouldn't be any riffraff sitting in the hall. These are Miss Su's original words. Master Lu asked me to pass the message on her behalf. How could Guan Bai not understand the meaning behind these words? This Su Mengqing was disdainful of Ding Meng's disheveled appearance. In fact, Guan Bai had been watching Su Mengqing's every move. It couldn't be helped. She was a big star. From the moment she entered, she attracted the attention of many people. Guan Bai was no exception. He was also attracted. Ding Meng took the initiative to stand up and stand behind Guan Bai. This time, Guan Bai revealed an apologetic expression. Bro, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to trouble you for a while. Ding Meng smiled. It's fine, Master Guan. I'm used to it. Back when Dai Yi first met Ding Meng, his expression and gaze were exactly the same as Su Mingqing's. But Ding Meng didn't mind. After all, he was completely different from these so-called big stars. Although Ding Meng was obedient, Little Rascal was displeased. Why should she? Isn't he just dressed a little poorly? She actually doesn't allow Ding Meng to sit down and even wants him to stand. She's going too far. Xiao AI, I suggest that Ding Meng get rid of her in a while. What do you think? Xiao AI cut to a dirty photo of Ding Meng on her screen. Ahem, a CT5570. Actually, I suggest that you pay attention to your image sometimes. After all, this is a high-end venue. It's rude to not pay attention to your image in an event like this. Little Rascal immediately retorted, Image? Imitate Four-Eyed? Do you think wearing a yellow suit and bee skin sandals will improve your image? Xiao AI said, At least Four-Eyed is still wearing a brand. Little Rascal sneered. Brand? What brand? Is it Taiyan Chongshan or Hong Legu? Xiao AI was speechless. Ding Meng didn't say anything to the two of them because he was thinking that if even someone like Su Mengqing was sitting at the second table, the first table would definitely be reserved for someone of even higher status. Sure enough, about 20 minutes later, Lu Ming finally welcomed the last group of guests. The one who stepped through the door with his head held high was a rather handsome young man. He was dressed in an extravagant manner, but the way he looked around gave off the impression that he was a good-for-nothing playboy. Just like Su Mengqing, the playboy didn't look anyone in the eye when he came in. It was only after he took a seat and realized that Su Mengqing was sitting next to him that he became happy. He started chatting with Su Mengqing from time to time, and Su Mengqing seemed to know that the playboy had an extraordinary status. She actually smiled from time to time, causing everyone else in the room to feel secretly envious, jealous, and lonely. This adulterous couple, look at how they're colluding with each other. Little Rascal was also angry. However, Ding Meng didn't respond. His attention was focused on the people behind the playboy. The playboy also had bodyguards with him. There were 5 men in suits and sunglasses in this area. However, no matter how thick the suits were or how big the sunglasses were, they couldn't hide from his telekinetic vision. Little Rascal was finally shocked. These people are from Haitian Corporation? Ding Meng nodded silently. Through his telekinetic vision, He could clearly see that the person standing at the end of the row of bodyguards was someone he recognized. This person was Jia Mao, who had been sent out by Lan Bing during the battle at Meteor City. He didn't expect to see him here, so it made sense that Su Mengqing was sitting at the second table. No matter how powerful she was just a celebrity in the entertainment industry. How could she be more powerful than a playboy from a major corporation? Is this person the descendant of the Chu family from Extreme Heaven Corporation? Ding Ming secretly asked. Little Rascal shook his head and said, "Our database only has information on the president of Haitian Corporation. That person is called Chu Ming Liang. The information shows that he's 328 years old this year. As for the rest of the Chu family, there's no information at all. This person obviously wasn't Chu Yifeng." Ding Ming secretly thought that since Jia Mao had appeared here, it meant that Haitian Corporation's tentacles had also reached out to this batch of containers. What the hell was an eighth box? It actually attracted the covetous eyes of two behemoths. This matter was getting more and more interesting. This trip to Cyprus Ancient Star was different from the previous trip to the Meteor City. Ding Ming's mission in the Celestial Wolf Army was to protect Dai Yi, so he had his hands and feet tied most of the time. However, this time, he had taken the initiative to cause trouble. While he was thinking, Lu Ming had already walked to the center of the stage in high spirits. He smiled at the microphone and said, "Distinguished guests, on behalf of all the members of the Extreme Thief Corps, I welcome all of you to Cypress Goo as guests. I personally feel very honored to be able to gather with all of you today." There was a burst of applause from the audience. This was obviously giving him face. The personal identities of the people present here might not be much, but the forces behind them were quite influential. Lu Ming didn't beat around the bush and went straight to the point. "Everyone, I won't explain too much. I believe you all know the reason why we are gathered here. The source of this batch of goods was discovered by Fugue Niao Corporation and then unearthed on Cypress Goo. So for this transaction, our Extreme Thief Corps and Fugue Niao Corporation will only take 20% of the labor fee. Do you have any objections?" Little Rascal was surprised. Could it be that they want to sell those boxes? Ding Ming nodded and said, "This Lu Ming is quite cunning. This batch of crystal-carrying matrices contained all good things. There must be a lot of people eyeing them. How could a small Extreme Thief Corps take them all for themselves? Even if they could, they might not be able to keep them. Sooner or later, they would have to spit them out, so it was better to sell them for money and make a fortune. The Extreme Thief Corps had indeed made a good plan. Chapter 232. Lu Ming scanned the crowd and found that no one spoke, so he continued with a smile. "Actually, everyone knows the origin of this batch of goods. It was excavated by the Xinhong Group from Cypress Star many years ago, but no one can say for sure what happened during the war. Moreover, so many years have passed. Everyone has different opinions on the issue of ownership, and everyone has their own reasons." These words were obviously meant for Su Mengqing, so at this moment, Su Mengqing had to speak up. "Captain Lu, in fact, I'm here today to participate in this transaction as an individual. I think it's best to buy things in a fair trade. The highest bidder wins." She set the tone, and the others secretly scolded her for being a thief. The highest bidder would win in the Holy Grail Federation, except for the Shenghao Group, who dare to say that they were more financially powerful than the Starbao Group. Lu Ming clapped his hands. "Okay, then bring the goods in." As soon as he finished speaking, 8 mercenaries immediately carried a crystal-carrying matrix from outside the gate to the central open space. Ding Ming couldn't help but smile. Lu Ming was indeed cunning, because the serial number on the box had been erased. Even if the buyer had the clue of the serial number, he couldn't identify it now. If he wanted to buy it now, it was undoubtedly a gamble. Lu Ming smiled and said, "Everyone, please take a look. The sensing gene lock is not damaged, and our Extreme Pirate Group has no ability to decrypt it. The goods are absolutely original, so please feel free to bid." This was nonsense. How could an encryption device 80 or 90 years ago be compared with a container today? Any statistician would be able to open the box in less than 5 minutes. But Lu Ming insisted on saying so, and everyone present could understand. After all, this was the territory of the extreme pirate group, and they must have paid a high price to dig out these things. It was normal for them to want to make more money. So at this moment, someone came in. It was a young man. He first carefully observed the outer layer of the box for a while, then knocked around and said, "The container is made of platinum red crystal material. The material model is TS3310. The cost of this box is no less than 1 million star coins." He was obviously an expert in this field and was able to directly analyze the material. However, the first half of what he said was true, but the second half of the conclusion was nonsense. John obviously couldn't keep his cool. He stood up and said, "The platinum red crystal is very rare now. It's a precious material. It's an excellent fusion material in making high-grade crystal equipment. The cost of this container is as high as 20 million star coins. Where did you get the confidence to say that it's only worth 1 million star coins?" The young man didn't argue. He just smiled slightly. The purpose of his entry wasn't to study the materials, but to lower the price. "If that's the case, I'll buy it for 50 million star coins." The one who spoke was an old man with white hair, sitting in the back row. The old man was not alone. There were also 3 followers standing behind him. Judging from their posture, they were definitely not ordinary people. He doubled the price, and for a moment, no one in the hall dared to speak. Lu Ming waited for a while before saying, "Is no one bidding?" Still, no one responded. Lu Ming was a little helpless. 50 million star coins, according to the 20% service fee, would only be 10 million star coins. Moreover, the 10 million star coins would not belong to the Extreme Pirate Corps alone. The Fuguway Bird Company would share half of it. If the cost of manpower, material resources, and time was taken into account, the Extreme Pirate Corps would lose money instead of making money. Anyone could bid for this deal, including the Extreme Pirate Corps themselves. But this was only the first box. Lu Ming would not be stupid enough to take the lead in bidding with the local tycoons. "Congratulations, Mr. Hu." Lu Ming was still smiling. "Do you need to sell the goods on the spot?" At this time, the young man had already walked to the box with a portable optical computer. "Captain Lu, you don't have to worry about this. Leave these chores to me." Sure enough, in less than 5 minutes, the gene lock was decrypted. For mercenaries had set up ladders and used tools to lift a corner of the top steel plate. The young man on the box squatted down and took a closer look. Then he nodded to Mr. Hu in the distance. Mr. Hu asked in a deep voice, "What kind of goods?" The young man immediately turned on the wristwatch and reached in to read the sample code on the inner wall of the container. When he reached out again, the picture on the light screen was clearly visible to everyone present. A black crystal, faintly emitting purple light. "Finished black stone," someone in the hall suddenly exclaimed. This quality of crystal was not the best, but if such a large box was full of it, its value would be more than 400 million star coins. However, Mr. Hu only spent 50 million star coins, which meant that he had picked up hundreds of millions of star coins for nothing. At this time, almost everyone looked at Mr. Hu with envy and jealousy in their eyes. Mr. Hu showed a smug smile at the corner of his mouth. Lu Ming said seriously, "Send the goods to the place designated by Mr. Hu and continue to carry the goods in." As the first box was carried away, the second box was soon placed in the central open space. Before the young man went up to identify it, the bidding on the spot was continuous. 50 million, 60 million, 70 million, 80 million. The people present were not fools. Any container could contain goods worth 400 or 500 million star coins, so the other containers were probably not bad. Everyone wanted to take a chance. This round of bidding directly soared to 190 million star coins, and the last person to bid was Mr. Hu. But this price was very embarrassing for the extreme thieves, because it was neither low nor high. Anyway, it could not reach Lu Ming's expected price. The young man began to knock on the box again. "This container has been produced for a long time. It should be the first generation material made with the alloy 95 years ago. I remember that this is the product of the Xinghong Group many years ago. His explanation was nothing more than the old way, to lower the price. But Lu Ming could not tolerate his free play any longer. He quietly gave Guanbai a look. Guanbai immediately looked back at Ding Ming and asked, "Brother Wolf, do you have any ideas?" Ding Ming naturally understood. He looked at the young man silently and asked, "Master Guan, do you want me to raise the price?" Guanbai clapped his hands and said, "Brother, you're smart." Ding Ming said, "Does this count as working for money?" Guanbai smiled and said, "Brother, as long as you can send that guy away and let the VIPs bid, everything is negotiable. I will give you whatever you want." Okay. Ding Ming left the table and walked slowly to the central open space. As soon as he appeared, dozens of complicated eyes suddenly swept over from all directions. Most of them were full of surprise and ridicule. No one understood why such a ragged beggar suddenly appeared in the venue. The young man was obviously shocked and looked at a loss. "What are you doing?" Ding Ming was not polite to him at all. He said coldly, "You can leave now." The young man was still confused. "Why?" Ding Ming said, "Because you don't know anything. You're a layman." "Me?" The young man almost jumped up. He pointed to his nose and said, "You said I'm a layman? Do you know how long I've been in this business?" Ding Ming answered firmly, "If I say you're a layman, you're a layman. Even if you've been in this business for your whole life, you'll still be a layman." "You?" The young man was so angry that he laughed. "I haven't asked for your name yet." Ding Ming did not bother to answer him. He pressed his palm on the box and asked, "Do you know what's inside?" "This." The young man was stunned. "What the hell do you mean?" "This is the first time I've heard that you can identify what's inside the crystal-carrying matrix without decryption. Do you know?" The young man obviously did not believe him. "Of course I know," Ding Ming answered calmly. The people around them started to talk about it. Guanbai came out in time to save the situation. "Don't be surprised and don't be suspicious. We definitely haven't touched the gene lock. Brother Wolf is an authoritative expert in this field. He found these containers under the mining area." After he said that, the discussion quieted down. Everyone was relieved. No wonder he was so dirty. It turned out that he had just returned from the mining area. This time, even Su Mengqing looked at Ding Ming with a much gentler gaze. The young man was obviously not convinced. "Then tell me, what's inside?" Ding Ming said proudly, "I won't tell you." The young man was stunned. "Why is that?" Ding Ming said, "Because my fee is very expensive and it's different every time." "What do you mean?" The young man did not understand. At this moment, the young man finally spoke. "Brother, can I understand it this way? Are you setting a price?" Ding Ming looked at the young man with a hint of appreciation in his eyes. "That's right." The young man said, "Then how much do you think this box is worth?" Ding Ming slowly made a hand gesture. The young man's voice sounded hesitant. 600 million? Ding Ming nodded and said, "If you really spend 600 million to buy it, you'll make a profit." At this moment, all the guests present immediately understood that this expert was not charging for himself, but for the Extreme Thief Corps and the Fuguei Bird Company. As long as he told them what was inside the box, they would have to raise the price according to this price. However, this kind of thing was too mysterious. How could they know what was inside? There was only one possibility. When the container was dug out, they must have decrypted it in advance and then sent someone to raise the price. However, neither the Extreme Thief Corps nor the Fuguei Bird Company dared to do this kind of thing. There were many fierce people present who could not be offended by the Extreme Thief Corps and the Fuguei Bird Company. Not to mention others. Even a casual word from Su Mengqing could make the two families suffer. Therefore, everyone was skeptical of Ding Ming's words. Others were skeptical, but the young man absolutely did not believe it. He sneered and said, "I've been in this business for almost 12 years. This is the first time I've heard that someone can know what's inside without opening the container." Chapter 233. Actually, the young man's words were not without reason. A crystal-loaded matrix could usually block all kinds of detection signals from the outside world. Thus, ordinary people and equipment could not detect what was inside it. However, for originability experts, this obstacle did not exist. Experts who had reached the level of Battle Lord or Battle General had extremely sharp senses. Although they might not be able to see through it with a single glance, at the very least, it wouldn't be a problem for them to make a rough guess through their perception. Furthermore, it wasn't strange for those who specialized in this line of work and cultivated the relevant secret scriptures to have special methods to investigate the inside. The question was, did such a person exist in this place? If there was such a person, why would he still be here? He would have been poached away by the various major forces of the Federal Empire. Faced with the young man's doubts, Ding Ming had no choice but to respond, "You don't need to hear about it, because you will see it very soon." The young man sneered and said, "What's inside?" Ding Ming calmly replied, "Finished purple stones. An entire box of them. There are 2,082 of them." The crowd once again burst into discussion. If there were 2,000 finished purple crystals, then this box of goods was really worth 600 million star credits. In reality, it was far more than that, because everyone present knew that the 600 million that Ding Ming had said was just a conservative estimate. The young man sneered even more coldly. "Anyone can make wild guesses, but what if there aren't purple crystals inside?" Ding Ming's voice also turned cold. "Then I'll buy it with my own money." The young man looked him up and down and could not help but laugh. 600 million star credits. Do you have that much money? Ding Ming asked in return. "But if it is, won't you buy it with 6 billion star credits?" "You." The young man choked again. Wasn't this logic a little too overbearing? Why should he pay 10 times the price if he bought it? However, he quickly thought it through. If there really were purple crystals inside, everyone would probably bid fiercely. After all, it was worth far more than 600 million. However, did Ding Ming look like someone who could take out 600 million star credits? He believed that everyone present knew what was going on. For a moment, the hall fell into silence. The atmosphere was a little awkward because Ding Ming hoped that Guanbai could stand up and defend him. However, he knew that this was impossible. Lu Ming and Guanbai didn't really trust him yet. Suddenly, a gentle and beautiful female voice broke the awkwardness on the stage. "I bid 600 million star coins." Following the voice, everyone turned their heads and saw that it was Su Mengqing who spoke with an expressionless face. Little Rascal appeared to be very puzzled. This woman, she just despised Ding Ming, and now she's supporting Ding Ming. What is she thinking? Su Mingqing's thoughts were definitely not something that Little Rascal could understand. When she spoke, there was a hidden meaning behind her words. Starbao Corporation wanted to take back this batch of goods. As for her supporting Ding Ming, even Ding Ming himself would not have such thoughts. After a few more minutes of silence in the hall, Lu Ming had no choice but to speak again. "Is there anyone else who would like to bid?" Seeing that everyone was lowering their heads and whispering to each other, Lu Ming had no choice but to ask politely, "Miss Su, would you like to sell the goods on the spot?" "Sell." Su Mengqing spat out this word without hesitation. As soon as she finished speaking, before her bodyguards could even come up, the young man had already climbed onto the box. He turned on his photon computer and aimed it at the gene lock. The steel plate at the corner of the box was quickly lifted. The young man almost buried his head inside. He had to take a closer look, and he had to get Ding Ming out of here. About 20 seconds later, the young man retracted his head. When he raised his head to look at Ding Ming again, the shock in his eyes was obvious to anyone. Old man who couldn't help but ask, "What's in there?" The young man listlessly pressed the wrist device, and a light screen showed the sample again. It was a round purple-black crystal, and its surface was wrapped in a circle of faintly discernible white brilliance. Obviously, this batch of crystals was not only of better quality, but also had been processed. It was worth more than 600 million star coins. A conservative estimate was more than 1 billion star coins. Clap, 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 clap. Someone took the lead, and the VIPs in the hall all applauded. Obviously, they were impressed by Ding Ming's amazing prediction ability. At the same time, these people secretly regretted that old man who got the first box, but Su Mengqing took the risk and won the second box. Of course, not everyone had such courage. If the box was full of garbage, the 600 million star coins would have been wasted. It was worth 600 million star coins, which was almost the price of half of the Tyrell armor. You can leave now. Ding Ming still said the same words. The young man didn't even have the courage to refute. He walked to Old Man Who's table dejectedly. When he approached, Old Man Who didn't even look at him. He also knew that Old Man Who was not angry with him, but hated the extreme pirate corps for making such a monster. He didn't know where Wild Wolf came from. He actually had such an ability. The most annoying thing was that the extreme pirate corps even invited such a person. With this beginning, Lu Ming would be stupid if he didn't take the opportunity to make a fuss. Sure enough, as the third box was carried in, Lu Ming looked at Ding Ming with a particularly soft look. Brother Wolf, would you like to give a starting price for this box? We are willing to pay the consulting service fee. Ding Ming's words were almost the same. My fee is very expensive, and the price is different every time. Lu Ming smiled sincerely. At least he looked sincere. Lu Ming, promise you in front of all the VIPs that I am willing to pay 15% of the fee for your hard work as the consulting service fee. This price was not insincere. Ding Ming was also clear about this market, so he slowly raised 3 fingers and said slowly, 300 million star coins. Before he could finish saying the word coin, voices from all directions rang out. 350 million, 400 million, 450 million, 500 million, 550 million, 600 million. This round of bidding was not in units of 10 million, but in units of 50 million. The guests in the whole hall fought for 5 minutes before they stopped. The last bidder was a woman called Sister Hua by Lu Ming. She called out a price of 2 billion each. There were not many things in this box. There were 5 small boxes in it, which contained the finished white stone, the finished blue stone, 20 strangely shaped emerald green alloy blades, and a very old smart chip. The value of the alloy blades and the chips was not clear for the time being, but in the 5th box, there were 8 color diamonds of completely different colors and shapes. The smallest one was half the size of a fist, and the largest one was no smaller than a cup. The value of these 8 diamonds was probably far more than 2 billion star coins. In the distance, Sister Hua was laughing so hard that she could not close her mouth, and Lu Ming was also full of joy. He kept saying congratulations over and over again. This price had far exceeded his expectations. After the auction, it was necessary to have a good talk with this Wild Wolf. It was better for this kind of talent to stay in the extreme pirate corps. Lu Ming secretly made up his mind. However, Lu Ming's joy did not last long, because from this round onwards, the situation had changed again. As long as Ding Ming opened his mouth to set the price, the first person to raise her hand was Su Mengqing. Ding Ming opened the 4th box with 1 billion, and Su Mengqing opened the 4th box with 3 billion. Ding Ming opened the 5th box with 800 million, and Su Mengqing did not hesitate to bid 2 billion. Ding Ming opened the 6th box with an astonishing 2 billion, and Su Mengqing did not even blink her eyes. 6 billion. This situation continued until the 10th box. As long as Ding Ming set the price, Su Mengqing would buy it directly at 3 times the price, and she did not sell on the spot. It seemed that she maintained absolute trust in Ding Ming, but in fact, the other guests around them could sense the arrogance in her words. Su Mengqing was so straightforward that she expressed the attitude of the Starbow Group to everyone. These goods were originally the goods of the Starbow Group, and now they were willing to buy them back at 3 times the price, which was a great respect to everyone. If anyone jumped out to compete with them, don't blame them for being rude. Therefore, during this process, no one in the hall bid. Su Mengqing bought all 10 boxes in less than half an hour. It was not until the 11th box was carried in that Ding Ming showed a dignified look. When he was in the mining area, he had scanned this box. There was a polygonal stone in it, which was about the size of the long table in the hall. It looked like a gem, but it was definitely not one because Little Rascal and Little Love had analyzed it before. It was more than 90% likely to be a silver core stone. Seeing Ding Ming's expression, Su Mengqing said coldly, "Mr. Wolf, why don't you set the price this time?" Ding Ming smiled and said, Miss Su, the price this time is a little high. I'm a little worried. Su Mengqing said proudly, the last thing you need to worry about is money. Just name your price. Ding Ming slowly stretched out 3 fingers. Mr. Hu frowned and said, 3 billion? No. Ding Ming shook his head and said seriously, it's 30 billion star coins. Hiss! Everyone in the surroundings sucked in a breath of cold air. What exactly was in there? How could it be set at such a high price? Su Mengqing seemed to be shocked by the price. She didn't speak at the first moment. If she quoted 3 times the price, it would be 90 billion star coins. What kind of concept was this? This was equivalent to nearly 100 mainstream battle armors on the current market and 2 advanced medium-sized attack starships. If this money was used to nurture talents, it would not be difficult to nurture 20 high-level Origin Energy warriors within 10 years if it was operated properly. Strictly speaking, this was no longer as simple as wealth. This was a power in his own hands. Using it to exchange for better things, was it worth it? Was it worth it? The pros and cons of this really needed to be considered. Su Mengqing pondered for a long time before saying again, how about this? I'll buy it for 40 billion star coins. Is Captain Lu satisfied with this price? Lu Ming's smile was as gentle as it could be. Miss Su's sincerity, his words were abruptly interrupted. I'll also buy it for 41 billion star coins. I like to see what's inside. Su Mengqing's expression changed. Lu Ming's smile also froze, and the eyes of all the guests became surprised and aghast. Who is it? How dare they? They dared to openly go against the Starbao group. Chapter 234. The voice was not loud, but there was a joking tone in the speaker's voice. Su Mengqing turned her head in surprise because the voice came from right next to her. The speaker was the child. He blinked and said with a smile, Miss Su, you've bought the bulk. Leave some leftovers for us. Seeing that it was him who was raising the price, Su Mengqing forced a smile. Brother Chu, you must be joking. My previous boxes are not as much as this one. The bulk is the bulk, but it's just a sucker. Brother Chu crossed his fingers and moved his 2 thumbs together. His playful intention was obvious. The whole Holy Grail Federation dares to let Miss Su be a sucker? I'm afraid there is no such person, right? Captain Lu, what do you think? He asked casually and shifted the pressure to the extreme pirate core. Lu Ming was quite calm and said with a smile, Of course, of course. The highest bidder gets it. This is the rules set by Miss Su before, isn't it? Another voice suddenly appeared. I'll pay 45 billion star coins. I don't know if this rule is still a rule. Su Mengqing's face darkened. She never expected that the strong opponent who appeared at the last moment was actually Mr. Hu. Brother Chu's eyes narrowed into a line. I didn't know that Mr. Hu's ability to make money is really good. Mr. Hu smiled and said, Money can only be earned if you know how to spend it. How can you make money if you don't spend it? Brother Chu, don't you think it makes sense? Brother Chu also smiled. But Mr. Hu, you suddenly spent 4 billion. Isn't it a bit unreasonable? Mr. Hu smiled. It depends on who is reasonable. I believe that Brother Chu and Miss Su are both reasonable people. At least I abide by the rules. Do I look like I'm bidding randomly? In this place, the reason was money. Whoever had more money would be the reason. Without enough money, it would sound like a joke no matter how much you said. Ding Ming finally realized that Su Mengqing must have received orders from the Star Rainbow Group to retrieve the supplies. Brother Chu of the Haitian group had not participated in the bidding because he wanted to jump out at the last moment to snipe at the Xinhong group. In fact, the Haitian group was not qualified to compete with the Xinhong group. The real qualified one was the Shenghao group. No one had expected that Mr. Hu, who had been making a small fuss at the beginning and then swallowing his anger, would not show his true colors until now. This guy was actually entrusted by the Shenghao group. Ding Ming used his telekinesis vision to secretly glance at Lu Ming on the stage. He found that Lu Ming had a smile on his face and looked confident. It seemed that the situation in front of him had long been within his expectations. But so what? None of this had anything to do with him. He could not wait for the families to quarrel. Only then would he have a chance to fish in troubled waters. Little Rascal said, the total price of the containers that have been sold is 55 billion GC, so the labor cost is 11 billion GC. If Extreme Bandit and Rich Bird divide it equally, you'll get 5 billion GC. Extreme Bandit will also pay you 15% of the consulting service fee. Ha ha ha, Ding Ming, you'll get 825 million GC. You are finally rich. Now we could go buy a Warframe. Wah! Ding Ming saw her jumping around happily in his field of vision. He directly poured a bucket of cold water on her. Naive and childish. Little Rascal was immediately dissatisfied. What did I calculate wrong? Ding Ming sighed secretly. Do you really think someone like Lu Ming would pay such a huge sum of money to someone they don't trust at all? Little Rascal was stunned. But didn't that guy just say it? He promised you personally in front of everyone. Ding Ming said coldly, you are still naive. This guy is playing a real game of chess. Don't underestimate him. If you don't believe me, you can continue to watch. At this time, the bidding war between Su Mengqing and the other two parties had risen to an astonishing number of 56 billion star coins. However, judging from the different expressions of the three people, it seemed that they had no intention of stopping. Brother Chu still looked so lazy. He raised the price unhurriedly. 57 billion. Mr. Hu picked up a large cup and drank water with his zzz sound. 58 billion. Brother Chu smiled. Mr. Hu, are you thirsty? Mr. Hu glanced at the beautiful Su Mengqing beside him and replied calmly, yes, if I were 40 or 50 years younger, I would probably be even thirstier than Brother Chu. Brother Chu's face changed. 60 billion. Mr. Hu snorted disdainfully. 62 billion. Brother Chu gritted his teeth. 65 billion. Mr. Hu was very calm. 68 billion. Everyone in the venue stared at the two people's bidding in a daze. The number of 1 billion came out of their mouths as if it were a joke. 90 billion. Su Mengqing, who had been silent, finally lost her temper. She didn't make a sound, but once she made a sound, she must suppress these two people. Ahem. Lu Ming was also frightened. Of course, he hoped that the price would rise as high as possible, but there had to be a limit to how high it was. If it was really too high, it didn't matter who the flower went to. The other two families who didn't get the flower would probably vent their anger on him. Honorable guests, harmony is the most important thing. Lu Ming stopped them in time. Brother Chu's face didn't look good, and Mr. Hu also fell silent. Both of them didn't expect that Su Mengqing really dared to bid a super high price of 90 billion. This price was unacceptable to them. In fact, this price also exceeded Su Mengqing's own psychological bottom line. However, the senior management of Xinghong Group had instructed that the two most important things in this batch of containers could be bought by others, but they could never fall into the hands of Xinghao Group. As for what these two things were, even the senior management didn't know. The senior management only told her the serial numbers of the two things. However, these bastards erased the serial numbers, and there happened to be an authoritative expert like Wild Wolf on the scene, which made her realize that the last two boxes must be what the senior management wanted. Lu Ming smiled cautiously and said, Miss Su, do you need to sell the goods on the spot? Su Mengqing said with a cold face, No, take it away. Lu Ming took a deep breath and said, Well, there's only one container left in this transaction. Please continue. When the 12th box was carried in, Ding Ming was silent again. Brother Chu regained his joking expression. Brother Wolf, do you want to set a high price this time? Mr. Hu also said 50 billion or 100 billion. Let's make it clear first. If the price is too high this time, I will withdraw first. Su Mengqing was very straightforward. Mr. Wolf, please set the price. Ding Ming smiled. Sorry, I won't set the price this time. The three of them were all stunned. What was going on? What else could it be? Ding Ming's psyche power couldn't enter the box at all, because he just tried again and still couldn't get in. However, he also knew that the last box was definitely not garbage, but he didn't want to set the price because the situation was unclear. The situation seemed calm, but in fact, it was dangerous. He decided to get himself out of it first. Everyone, I'm very sorry. I don't know what's in it. Ding Ming told the truth. This was his habitual gamble. He was betting that this group of people would not believe his honest words. Sure enough, Brother Chu was surprised. "Brother Wolf, you can't identify it with your ability?" Ding Ming spread out his hands and said, "I'm sorry. I'm not good at it." Brother Chu pondered and said, "In this case, I'll pay 50 million star coins as a token of appreciation. Yes, it's the last batch of goods. It's boring if we hurt each other." Mr. Hu also agreed. "I'll pay 100 million. Su Mengqing was expressionless. 1 billion. Brother Chu turned his head and looked at her with an unnatural, questioning look. "Miss Su, it's not good for you to behave like this." Su Mengqing asked back, "What do you think is good?" Brother Chu was slightly dissatisfied. "You've eaten the meat. Don't you want to leave the soup for us?" Mr. Hu smiled confidently. "I see that Miss Su likes soup. I'll entertain you in this last round. I'll pay 2 billion. Brother Chu was obviously not to be outdone. He spread out his palm and said 5 billion, 10 billion. Every time Su Mengqing offered a price, the other two families were really unprepared. Actually, she wasn't shouting for no reason. Her main purpose was to use a thunderous momentum to suppress the other two families and show her determination to win. Sure enough, after she offered a price of 10 billion yuan, Mr. Hu looked at her thoughtfully and stopped raising the price. There was no other reason than that he was dubious about Ding Meng's no price. The starting price of the last box of goods Ding Meng was 30 billion. At least it was a reference standard. You could at least not lose money if you offered so much money. But this time, there was no reference standard. It was not clear whether there was a cow or a horse in a box. Mr. Hu dared not to take such a risk. The style of Xinghao Group had always been not based on risky gambling. The purpose of Mr. Hu's trip was completely different from Su Mengqing's. Xinghao Group also knew that the goods were from Xinghong Group. They did not intend to compete with Xinghong Group at all. They sent Mr. Hu out just to go through the motions and disgust Su Mengqing. Anyway, Su Mengqing had already spent 90 billion. She had also stolen a box of chickens. It could be said that this trip was not in vain. It was completely enough. Therefore, only Brother Chu was left to compete in the venue. Brother Chu's way of bidding was lukewarm. He raised the price by 2 billion at a time. The current price soared to 17 billion. 20 billion. Su Mengqing was still strong. Brother Chu suddenly smiled meaningfully. "Miss Su, you have a good appetite." Su Mengqing said lightly, "I'm not as good as you." Fourth child Chu. Brother Chu finally loosened his hands and raised them. 25 billion. Originally, everyone thought that Su Mengqing, who was full of heroic spirit, would fight back in a more exaggerated way. Unexpectedly, this time she was not angry. She sat there with a cold face and no longer spoke. Little rascal felt strange. What's the matter? She could take out 90 billion just now. Now, she can't take out 25 billion? Ding Meng sighed. It's obvious that her trump card has been known by her opponent in advance. Chapter 235. Ding Meng's guess was spot on. Su Mengqing's trump card was indeed 100 billion star coins. This was the limit given to her by the Starbao Corporation before she left. This was because the higher-ups believed that this batch of stock was worth this much. If the price exceeded this limit, then whoever wanted to buy this batch of goods was free to do so. Brother Chu must have known this, which was why he had suddenly intercepted the last crate during the competition. He had calculated that Su Mengqing would no longer be able to follow up. When he saw that Su Mengqing had no reaction, Brother Chu revealed a mocking smile. "Miss Su, thank you for leaving a spoonful of soup for me." Su Mengqing sneered. "If Brother Chu likes it, then take it, as long as you can pay enough." Little rascal suddenly said, "That's strange." Ding Meng was puzzled. "What's strange?" Little rascal said, "It's like these two people are talking about a business deal." Ding Meng was puzzled. "They're talking about a business deal. What's so strange about it?" Little rascal said, "I'm not talking about a business deal, but a sexual one. Think about it carefully. Thank you for leaving a spoonful of soup for me seems to be saying, thank you for giving me a chance. If you like it, then take it, as long as you can pay enough, means that if you like me, then give me money. If you can pay enough, then we can talk about anything." Ding Meng rolled his eyes. Little Rascal, you're a genius. You can even make such a connection. Little Rascal argued. My analysis makes sense. On the surface, these celebrities are bright and beautiful, pure and charming. But in private, they are debauched, dirty, and chaotic. Idiot Ding Ming. Do you think it's easy to survive in the entertainment industry? It's actually very messy. Xiao AI agreed. That's right. Ding Ming. Just as Ding Ming and the others were discussing, Lu Ming's voice suddenly interrupted the two Chu brothers' conversation. Young Master Chu, I wonder if Haitian Group is interested in transferring the last container to me? Our core is willing to pay for it. As soon as he said this, not only were the other people in the hall shocked, even Ding Ming did not expect this. But on second thought, there was no problem. Anyone present could buy these boxes, including Lu Ming himself. The premise was that you had to take out real money. What was even more shocking was that Brother Chu still had a smile on his face as he replied unhurriedly, since Captain Lu likes it, then you can use it as long as you can pay enough money. These words were almost exactly the same as what Su Mingqing had said. Who would have thought that Brother Chu would actually agree? Lu Ming was still smiling, and his smile was still polite and gentle. Brother Chu's breadth of mind is truly admirable. I'll offer 30 billion star coins. What does Brother Chu think? Brother Chu clapped his hands and smiled. Captain Lu's sincerity really makes it impossible for me to refuse. This meant that it was a deal. Elder Hu was sitting in the distance, also laughed happily. The Star Rainbow Group is in deep trouble this time. The young man couldn't help but ask why. With his experience, he couldn't tell what was going on at all. On Ding Ming's side, Little Rascal was also very confused. He didn't make a bid in the beginning, and only made a bid in the last 2 rounds. He worked so hard to get such a high price, but in the end, he changed hands just like that. Why? Is he messing around? Ding Ming smiled bitterly. It's because you're right, Little Rascal. They really are talking about sex. Little Rascal was stunned. You didn't believe it earlier, but now you believe it? Ding Ming sighed. It's only now that I realize that Lu Ming and Haitian Group's Brother Chu are in cahoots. They knew about Su Mingqing's trump card a long time ago, so they colluded in secret. First, they used up all of Su Mingqing's capital to get the box at a low price. With this explanation, Little Rascal immediately figured out the cause and effect. As long as this batch of goods was truly unearthed, it would definitely attract the covetous eyes of various forces. Among them, the Starbao Group would definitely pay the most attention. There was no need to even think about this. Most of the boxes would definitely be taken back by the Starbao Group. Even Elder Hu wouldn't be able to stop them. Whoever tried to stop them would die. However, Lu Ming had heard about the contents of the 12th box from some unknown source, so he also had the idea of taking it for himself. However, if he wanted to take it, he definitely could not use such a stupid method like embezzling it, because the first to disagree was the Star Rainbow Group, so he had to get it openly. Therefore, there was this trade fair in front of him. But why did Brother Chu agree to Lu Ming's request? Little Rascal still couldn't figure out the reason behind this. Ding Ming said, Brother Chu and Lu Ming must have reached an agreement beforehand. Do the math carefully. If all 12 boxes were sold, Lu Ming would have at least 10 billion yuan in his account. If he added half of it to make 30 billion yuan, the box would naturally be his. Little Rascal nodded. That's right. It's not a big deal for a group like the Extreme Bandits to take out 10 billion yuan. Ding Ming continued, look at Brother Chu. Maybe he's interested in Su Mingqing. Little Rascal immediately replied, that's right. According to my statistics, since he entered the venue until now, he has observed Su Mingqing 57 times, intentionally or unintentionally. Among them, 34 times he was secretly glancing at her breasts. The woman's breasts are really big and white, and she's wearing such a revealing dress. That's why I think there's something wrong with them. That's right. Ding Ming explained. Brother Chu wanted to sleep with Su Mingqing, but he didn't have the chance. But the Extreme Bandits invited Su Mingqing, so Brother Chu's chance came. Lu Ming wanted the last box, but he didn't have the courage to fight for it. But with the power of the Haitian Group, the box became the Extreme Bandits. As a result, the Extreme Bandits got the box in the end, and the Haitian group got 30 billion star coins for free. The best part is that the money was paid by the Starbow group. Little Rascal smiled. Of the 30 billion, Brother Chu might only need to spend a few hundred million to sleep with Su Mengqing. The best part is that Su Mengqing might want to sleep with Brother Chu. What a star like her likes most is to climb up the branches of the rich. This is called taking Starbow's money, robbing Starbow's materials, and finally seducing Starbow's girl. TSK, TSK, TSK. This is really a smart move. Ding Ming, you should learn from her. Ding Ming rolled his eyes when he heard this. Little Rascal, you really know how to make connections. Little Rascal smiled even more mischievously. Ding Ming, in fact, you can transform into Brother Chu's appearance. I found that your figure is actually about the same as his. When you sleep with Su Mengqing, she might not be able to recognize you. Then this trip to Cypress Planet will not be in vain. Xiao AI said, well, that's right. Ding Ming. They were still discussing when Lu Ming finally began to conclude. Distinguished guests, this trade fair has finally come to a successful end. Our army has specially prepared a banquet, and we invite all distinguished guests to take a seat. We hope that all of you will grace us with your presence. This banquet was held on the second floor of Building Number 1. It was also a splendid hall with more than 10 exquisite round tables. Good wine and prepared food had already been placed on the tables. The dazzling lineup looked very tempting. For Cypress Planet, which was located in a remote location and lacked supplies, to be able to hold such a banquet, Lu Ming could not be said to be insincere towards these distinguished guests. Therefore, all the people present came, including Ding Ming. Of course, the tables and seats were particular. The ones sitting at the head of the table were naturally Lu Ming, Guan Bai, Mr. Hu, Su Mengqing, and Brother Chu. Everyone was drinking and chatting happily. Ding Ming sometimes had to admire Little Rascal's accurate judgment in the aspect of rascal. Look at Su Mengqing. At this moment, she did not look angry at all after being tricked. She was beaming with joy, blushing, and frequently raising her glass to everyone. She looked like a typical social butterfly. Ding Ming's table was the third table. The status of the people sitting at the table was definitely not as high as the first two tables, but it was definitely not low. At the head of the table was Hu Biao, who was welcoming the guests of the Generation Extreme Pirate Corps. Next were three people that Ding Ming did not know. Then there was Su Mengqing's female bodyguard, the young man next to Mr. Hu, and Brother Chu's entourage, Jiao Mao. The atmosphere at this table was obviously not as warm as that at the first table. Only Hu Biao was constantly toasting to everyone. Except for Jiao Mao and the young man, the other people's reactions were very cold, especially the female bodyguard. She basically did not even touch the table knife, let alone drink. However, Ding Ming would not waste such an opportunity. He basically cleared a plate of chicken, duck, fish, seafood, vegetables, as well as all kinds of wine and drinks on the table in a minute. This was taking into account the elegant occasion, so he tried his best to slow down. Otherwise, with his usual table manners, he could have cleared all the dishes on the dozens of tables in half an hour. Seeing Ding Ming engrossed in eating, Hu Biao could not help but show a playful smile. Brother Wolf, you have a good appetite. Ding Ming did not raise his head. People in our line of work are all rough people in the mining area. It's good enough that we can eat. Brother Biao, please don't blame us. Although he said so, in fact, he had already spread out his telekinesis vision. All the corners of the 4 buildings, including the central square, were under his observation. Nothing could escape his perception. In this hall, the eyes, expressions, and conversations of the people at the first table and his table were the most important things he paid attention to. His pretentiousness dispelled many people's previous suspicions. After all, he was in the limelight today. Many people were wondering, where did this guy named Wild Wolf come from? Why have I never heard of him? But now it seemed that Wild Wolf was not a big deal. The bumpkin was indeed a miner. He paid no attention to what was going on in the hall and only focused on eating free meat. After 3 rounds of wine and 5 dishes, everyone was in the mood to talk, especially Hu Biao. At this table, Jia Mao was the only one who drank with him. Brother Jia, we haven't seen each other in a long time. Now that we finally meet, we must have a good drink or two. Hu Biao raised his cup in a forthright manner. Come, let's have another drink. Jia Mao could not get drunk with him in this kind of situation. Although fourth young Master Chu was drinking happily over there, his entourage did not dare to let down their guard. Jia Mao could only raise his cup as a gesture. At the same time, he changed the topic. Old Hu, the thing I asked you to do last time, did it go smoothly? It's nothing. Hu Biao was obviously a little drunk. His face was slightly red. Green Arrow's base is just a bunch of chickens and pottery dogs. They don't have any fighting power at all. It'll be over in a few moves. As soon as he said this, Ding Ming's spirit was suddenly lifted. He quickly turned his attention to the two of them. Chapter 236. Although Hu Biao was a little tipsy, Jia Mao was still very vigilant. He looked around and found that everyone was eating and drinking, and no one was paying attention to him. Only then did he say softly. He then whispered, Old Hu, you really didn't find that ding guy last time? Hu Biao waved his hand indifferently. Brother Jia, we're brothers. Do you think I'm the kind of person who doesn't do my best? Jia Mao smiled apologetically. That's not it. Of course I know what kind of person you are. I'm just following orders to pass on a message. Hu Biao put down his wine cup. To be honest, I'm also curious. What did that ding guy do to offend you? Why are you making such a big fuss? Jia Mao immediately smiled bitterly. His expression seemed very helpless. Hu Biao looked at him in confusion. Why? Is it inconvenient to reveal? Jia Mao sighed. That's not it. Hu Biao hesitated. I heard that he caused a huge ruckus in Sirius and caused chaos in Meteor City. Even someone like Old Ron was defeated by him. This was a very tactful question. Jia Mao was also involved in the battle in Meteor City. He was lucky to not die. However, this did not mean that he was more ferocious than Ding Ming. The meaning of Hu Biao's question was very obvious. You're not his opponent, so you asked us to help you deal with him? Jia Mao sighed. I'm fine. I'm just following fourth young master. That ding guy didn't offend fourth young master, but young master phone. Hearing the two words, young master phone, Hu Biao immediately sobered up. He also looked around and asked softly, Chu Yifeng? Jia Mao nodded helplessly. Actually, the one he offended wasn't young master phone, but Miss Bing. These three words were even more attractive than Chu Yifeng's name. Hu Biao's eyes lit up. He was finally interested. He offended Miss Bing. Interesting. How did he offend her? Did he take advantage of Miss Bing? Jia Mao glanced at him. He fought with Miss Bing and scratched her face. This? Hu Biao was shocked. This guy gets a really big. No wonder your high Tian wants to settle accounts with him. Jia Mao smiled bitterly and said, I don't know what happened to Miss Bing. After that fight, she refused to receive treatment and let the scar hang on her face. This made young Master Phone very angry. Hu Biao sighed, so that's how it is. So young Master Phone wants that kid's life? Jia Mao said disdainfully. Young Master Phone doesn't even care about a nobody like him. Hu Biao muttered, even Sky Wolf's Ren Zhan is dead. I'm afraid that kid still has some skills. Jia Mao sighed again. Sigh. My cousin works on a young Master Phone and also works with Miss Bing. Naturally, he has to find a way to help young Master Phone and Miss Bing vent their anger. Hu Biao immediately understood. I see. No wonder you said that Ding Ming left a mark on someone else's body. So was this mark. The two of them were still chatting in private. Little did they know that Ding Ming, who was engrossed in eating, had heard every word of their conversation. At this moment, Little Rascal was furious. Son of a bitch, it really was this group of people who did it. Shout AI also spoke up. They've gone too far. ACT 5570 only left a scar on her face, but she wants tens of thousands of lives to repay it. She didn't even let a child like Xiao Shanzi go. This is truly hateful. We must resolutely get rid of him. Not even a strand of hair can be left behind. Little Rascal said angrily, last time at Meteor City, we didn't get rid of this guy and left behind a disaster. His cousin is Jiahua. That kid actually used the lives of tens of thousands of people on planet KV-303 to curry favor with Chu Yifeng and Lan Bing. Ding Ming, you can't let him go this time no matter what. Ding Ming was still engrossed in eating and did not answer. However, the anger in his chest had been suppressed for many days. After learning the truth, he was not in a hurry to get angry. Instead, he forced himself to calm down and think of a countermeasure. How can I hit the vital points of this large group of people? In Ding Ming's mind, this matter was not over just by killing a few of the extreme bandit unit's lackeys. It would be too easy for them to just cut off their heads. He had to create something to make them suffer. Otherwise, he would not be able to answer to the captain and Ah Xiao. After eating and drinking for about an hour, the 5 people of the first table stood up and toasted everyone. It seemed that the banquet was about to end. Ding Ming had an idea. He followed Hu Biao and came to Guanbai's side. At this moment, Guanbai and the others were arranging for the guests to stay and leave. Some people were ready to leave, while others wanted to stay and have fun for a few days. The latter were basically men. Everyone knew that the extreme bandit unit had collected a lot of beautiful women. Cypress Grove was not the Holy Grail Federation. Here, you could do whatever you want. Only a fool would not enjoy yourself at this time. Therefore, the 5th floor and above of Building 1 were all entertainment floors. Eating, drinking, playing, living, and sleeping were all available to make you feel so good that you would not want to go back. Brother Wolf. Lu Ming took the initiative to shake hands with him. Thank you very much for today. I didn't expect you to be so good in the appraisal industry. Ding Ming also took the initiative to nod and bow. It's all thanks to Mr. Liu and Mr. Guan. Lu Ming was still smiling politely. Brother Wolf, please rest assured. I, Lu Ming, am a man of my word. The consulting service fee, I promised you will be transferred to your account tomorrow. Ding Ming looked flattered. How can I accept this? Mr. Liu, your group just spent a large sum of money to buy a container. It's a huge expense. I can still tell the difference. I'm just saying a few words. I'm ashamed to accept this money for no reason. Lu Ming looked at him with interest and said meaningfully, but brother, your words are worth hundreds of billions. Mr. Liu, you must be joking. Since Ding Ming met Meng Yan, he had also learned how to be an actor. With a sincere look, he said, I, Wild Wolf, am a little capable in the mining area, but I still know how much I am worth in front of you. I have talked with Mr. Guan before. I don't have any other requirements. I just want to get some of the material composition on the container and go back to study it. He could not be sincere, not to mention whether he wanted to take the money or not. If Lu Ming really wanted to give him money, he didn't dare to take it. Thousand Shadows could change his appearance, but how could he show the real personal trading system in the wrist device? On the day he showed it, his identity would be exposed. In the current situation, he couldn't expose himself for the time being. However, Lu Ming was very satisfied with his behavior. This guy was very smart. Lu Ming glanced at Guanbai. Guanbai naturally understood and nodded. Mr. Hu, Commander, and I will see the guests off. I'll leave it to you to greet Brother Wolf. You can satisfy whatever he wants. Hu Biao nodded and said, no problem at all. Ding Ming's request was actually very easy to satisfy, because Hu Biao quickly asked a waiter to give Ding Ming a crystal card. This card looked like a transparent plastic sheet, but in fact, it was an anonymous pass. With it, he could go unimpeded in Building Number 1 and also go to the 3rd floor of Building Number 3 opposite. That was the material warehouse of the Extreme Thief Group. Ding Ming could take whatever he wanted. After this, most of the guests in the banquet hall had left. Most of the guests went directly to the 5th to the 15th floor. The 10th floor was the entertainment area, and the 15th floor and above were the rest areas. To put it bluntly, it was similar to the luxury suites in hotels for guests to rest. Before entering the elevator, Ding Ming made his last request. Brother Biao, I'm going back to my room to rest. Hu Biao was a little surprised. Brother, don't you want to go to the entertainment area? There are many beautiful girls on the 10th floor. Brother, you can choose any of them. Ding Ming smiled, and his smile was a little embarrassed. I want to have fun. I want to ask Brother Biao, can the waiter who served me wine in the hall on the 1st floor entertain me? Hu Biao couldn't help laughing. So you've been thinking about that woman. However, Ding Ming's request was just a matter of words for him. Brother, go back to your room first. Don't worry, I'll arrange it. The waiter will come to your room later. Thank you so much, Brother Biao. Ding Ming was overjoyed and happily got into the elevator. It wasn't until the elevator door was completely closed that Hu Biao murmured, I didn't expect this guy to be so good at appraising materials, but his taste in women is really bad. Ding Ming's room was arranged on the 22nd floor. This suite was definitely not comparable to the rooms on Liao Zhang's heavenly fate. It had a large living room and 2 small bedrooms, covering an area of more than 300 square meters. The decoration was luxurious and ingenious. There was a swimming pool and a small garden on the balcony. Not to mention all the facilities, the construction materials of these rooms were carefully selected. The most classic was that the rooms were equipped with a training room made of alloy. The place was spacious and well-equipped. This point alone showed that the extreme pirate corps, like the Celestial Wolf Corps, often dealt with the people of the Holy Grail Federation. They had fully taken into account that most of the guests were Origin ability users. Origin ability users focused on cultivation, so they needed a private place for cultivation. This building number 1 was indeed a good place. However, Ding Ming was not in the mood to use the various novelties in the room. After he came in, he directly sat cross-legged on the sofa and carefully scanned the room with his telekinesis vision. In his perception, Mr. Hu's room and Su Mingqing's room were on the same floor, number 2666 and number 2688, respectively. The distance between the two was still a little far. At the same time, their entourages and bodyguards also occupied several rooms. Except for them, there was no one else on this floor. Brother Chu's room was arranged on the 30th floor, which was the top floor. It was a super luxurious viewing room. The location and interior design of this room proved that Ding Ming's previous judgment was absolutely correct. It would be strange if Lu Ming was not colluding with the 4th young master of the Chu family. After scanning for a while, Ding Ming had a general understanding of the structure of this floor. Just then, the doorbell rang. Ding Ming said in a deep voice, "Please come in." Sure enough, the waitress appointed by Ding Ming was standing outside the door. The waitress lowered her head and looked very reluctant. However, the mercenaries behind her pushed her in mercilessly. At the same time, they nodded politely and said, "Brother Wolf, please enjoy your meal. We won't disturb you any further. We'll leave first. If you need anything, just press the pager on the coffee table." Chapter 237. As soon as the mercenaries left, the waitress gently closed the door and strode into the large living room of the room. At this moment, she no longer had the slightest bit of grievance and frustration. Instead, she had transformed into her true form and regained her valiant and heroic spirit. Who else could this person be other than Meng Yan? Ding Ming directly asked, "How's it going?" Meng Yan's expression was somewhat solemn. That elder whose real name is Hu Qingji. He is not a member of the Sheng Hao group, but he was entrusted by the Sheng Hao group to come to Cypress Star as a guest. Brother Chu is one of the shareholders of the Haitian group. His ancestor is the president of the Haitian group, Chu Ming Liang. His real name is Chu Zhongyu, and he is ranked 4th in his family. Hearing Meng Yan's information, Ding Ming slowly nodded. Meng Yan's ability to disguise herself and inquire about information was even inferior to Ding Ming's. Therefore, once this information was gathered, Ding Ming gradually understood the cause and effect of this trade fair. Chu Zhongyu is completely different from Chu Yifeng, who is ranked 2nd. This person only knows how to indulge in wine and women all day long and hooked up with celebrities in the entertainment circle. Logically speaking, a person of his status should not appear in Cypress Star. But when he heard that Su Mingqing was coming this time, he also came. Meng Yan's information completely confirmed Ding Ming's analysis. Ding Ming seemed to be trying hard to recall. Su Mingqing's male bodyguard. Do you know his identity? I'm not sure. Meng Yan shook her head and replied, but I know that female bodyguard. She was sent by the Star Bao Group's security department. It is said that she is an intermediate war elder. Her name is Elon. In Ming Yan's consciousness, an intermediate war elder accompanied Su Mingqing to outer space. Under normal circumstances, she could do whatever she wanted no matter where she went. However, Ding Ming did not think so, because that male bodyguard was the one he was truly interested in. "Is there any news from the Green Arrow?" Ding Ming asked again. Meng Yan's expression softened quite a bit. "Commander Fong has already replied. He wants me to tell you that the Federation side has already made some progress. He will personally take care of it. It will be best if you can handle things here. If you really can't, then retreat. Your safety is the most important. Green Arrow has already arranged for their spies at the spaceport in the Paradise Galaxy. If you want to retreat, you can leave at any time." Ding Ming nodded his head. A trace of warmth flowed in his heart. With the strength of the Green Arrow Army, they had already done their best. Meng Yin continued, "For eyes and the Russians have also gotten a ship. I asked them to stop at the third port of this starship's maintenance area. Mr. Ting, if you need them, they will be here in 20 minutes. She clearly realized that the current situation on Cypress Grove planet was much deeper than the one in Meteor City. At her level, she could only gather information for Ding Ming, run errands, prepare a backup plan, and do some chores. She could not get involved in anything else. However, she understood Ding Ming's temper better, so she did not dare to be too obvious. Ding Ming obviously understood what she meant. He waved his hand and said, "Sister Yin, you should go out and meet up with Four Eyes and the others. It is actually not appropriate for you to stay here." Meng Yin hesitated. "Why?" Ding Ming's expression also became a little serious. "You only saw the few people who were in the limelight at the meeting. You did not notice the ones hiding in the dark. This matter is not as simple as you think. If it were not for Captain Ah Xiao and the others, I might have retreated." Meng Yin immediately understood. There must be some hidden enemies hiding in the dark. She could not see them, but Ding Ming could definitely see them. Sure enough, Ding Ming continued, "That's Su Mingqing. Is there any way to get close to her?" Meng Yin shook her head helplessly. This Su Mingqing's origin is very complicated. She was made famous by the Starbow Group in her early years. At that time, she was still a signed artist under the Starbow Group. After she became famous, she began to fly solo. Behind many heavyweight movies, the investors were actually the shadow of the Shenghao Group. It is said that she has maintained close contact with the upper echelons of the Starbow Group and the Shenghao Group. She is quite popular among the sponsors of the previous Star Wars League. As for the real relationship, it is unknown. This time, she came to Cypress Grove planet not because of the Starbow Group's commission, but because of the recommendation of a visiting professor at the Federation's Starlight University. Ding Ming sighed. It's really complicated. In fact, in his eyes, there was no such person. Su Mingqing was at most a non-combat type origin ability user. In essence, she did not constitute a threat to him. However, Little Rascal had reminded him before that this kind of celebrity in the entertainment industry was involved in various forces. If you really wanted to touch her, you had to consider the endless troubles that would follow. Therefore, when she came to Cypress Grove planet, she became a character that no one wanted to provoke. The problem was that things had developed to this point. This Su Mingqing was someone that Ding Ming could not avoid no matter what, because he simply did not believe that even he could see that Chu Zhongyu and Lu Ming were tricking her, while Su Mingqing herself was sitting there like a fool, waiting to be slaughtered. Whether it was the circle of origin ability users or the circle of big stars, all circles were essentially the same. Once a person's fame reached a certain level, no one would be an idiot. Even an idiot would not be able to reach that level. At this moment, the doorbell rang again. Ding Ming and Meng Yin looked at each other. What was going on? Ding Ming said in a deep voice, "Who is it?" In fact, he had already seen clearly that the person standing outside the door was Su Mingqing's female bodyguard, Elon. Elon said, "Mr. Wolf, I'm very sorry to disturb your rest. I'm Miss Su's assistant, Elon. Miss Su asked me to invite Mr. Wolf upstairs for a chat." In the middle of the night, if Su Mingqing wanted to invite a man to her room for a chat, there were probably not many men who could refuse. Ding Ming was no exception. Please tell Miss Su that I'll be right up. Ilan did not say much and turned to walk towards the elevator. Meng Yin frowned and said, "What is she planning?" Ding Ming said, "I knew that she wasn't as simple as she looked." Meng Yin took off the backpack from her shoulder and handed it to Ding Ming. "Everything is in here." Ding Ming nodded. Now that they were in the enemy's real nest, it would not make sense for them to be empty-handed. The ancient sword had to be hidden on them at all times. At this moment, in the luxurious passageway of the 26th floor, the male bodyguard wearing large sunglasses was standing quietly in front of the door of room 2688. The door was open, and soft light reflected from inside. When Ding Ming, who was dressed in rags and dirty clothes, arrived, the male bodyguard did not react at all. He politely extended his hand and said, "Please, Miss Su is waiting for you inside." Ding Ming glanced at him and did not say much. He nodded slightly and walked in. As soon as he entered the large living room of the room, a strong fragrance wafted out. It smelled like a combination of perfume and a woman's body odor. Ding Ming could not help but frown. He was still not used to this smell. Su Mengqing had already taken off her revealing dress. It seemed that she had just finished bathing. Her wet hair spread out on her shoulders like waves. She was wearing a blue and white bathrobe. The bathrobe was very elegant, but the V-shaped collar revealed a shocking snow-white skin, which was very eye-catching under the brown light. She was sitting on the sofa in a very elegant posture. Half of her white calves were exposed under the skirt, which made people daydream. Compared to the high and mighty, mature and elegant image she had during the day, Su Mengqing now looked even sexier and more attractive, especially with the bulging V-shaped neckline. If Hu Biao and the others were here, it would be hard for them to look elsewhere. It was not until Ding Ming arrived that Su Mengqing's phoenix eyes turned to him. Her tone was very gentle. "Mr. Wolf, please sit down." She was indeed a star among actresses. Her glance was so vivid and full of seductive charm. No wonder Chu Zhongyu could not resist this kind of charm. Basically, it was difficult for a normal man to resist this kind of charm. However, Ding Ming was not distracted. Instead, he raised his guard because Little Rascal did not comment, which was rare. "Be careful, this woman is strange." Ding Ming naturally understood. Su Mengqing had sneered at him during the day, and now she was showing such a welcoming attitude. It would be strange if she did not have something up her sleeve. As soon as Ding Ming sat down, Ilan immediately opened the red wine on the coffee table and poured a small glass for each of them. She then added ice into the goblet. Su Mengqing picked up the glass and shook it gently. "I was wrong at the meeting. I did not expect Mr. Wolf to be so knowledgeable in identifying materials." Ding Ming replied calmly, "It's a pity that the last container could not be identified." Su Mengqing took a sip of red wine and sighed. "It's a pity." Ding Ming did not answer. He did not lack patience. He believed that this woman would not ask to see him for no reason. Unexpectedly, Su Mengqing was also a patient person. After drinking the wine, she took out a long woman's cigarette and gently lit it with a match on the coffee table. Her posture was indescribably elegant. Ilan also took out a pack of cigarettes and handed it to Ding Ming. Ding Ming waved his hand. "Thank you, but I don't know how to smoke." Su Mengqing breathed out a mouthful of smoke contentedly. She suddenly smiled meaningfully. "Mr. Wolf does not drink or smoke. I guess your interest is not in smoking." As soon as she said this, Ding Ming felt that this woman was not as easy to deal with as Guanbai, Hu Biao, and the others. Sure enough, Su Mengqing suddenly winked at him and smiled. "How do I compare to the waiter in Mr. Wolf's room?" When she said this, there was no doubt that she had carefully investigated Ding Ming's movements and knew how to cater to his interests. Moreover, Ilan turned and walked out without saying anything, closing the door at the same time. The meaning of this was self-evident. Ding Ming suddenly smiled. "To be honest, in my eyes, Miss Su is still far from him." Ahem. Su Mengqing coughed softly. It was unclear whether she choked on the cigarette or Ding Ming's words. Ding Ming continued, "Because I don't have the ability of fourth young Master Chu, I certainly wouldn't dare to do the same thing as fourth young Master Chu." He was just short of saying that someone of his status was only fit to sleep with a waiter. If he were Chu Zhongyu, the person he would sleep with would definitely be her. These seemingly rude words did not make Su Mengqing angry. Instead, she showed a trace of satisfaction. She slowly put out the cigarette in the tray and then said seriously, "I have only just figured out one thing." Ding Ming said, "Please speak." Su Mengqing stared at him and said word by word, "The person Fong Jinghao really sent was you." Chapter 238. The room was still the same room, and the two people were still the same. However, as soon as Su Mengqing said this, the ambiguous atmosphere in the room was immediately replaced by a strange atmosphere. Even the originally soft light seemed to be dazzling. Ding Ming did not answer, nor was he surprised. His identity would be exposed sooner or later. People like Su Mengqing would definitely have their own channels to dig him out. However, Ding Ming did not expect the other party to find out so quickly. Fortunately, Su Mengqing took the initiative to explain. "Don't worry, I'm the only one who knows that you're a spy from the Green Arrow Corps." Ding Ming frowned. "You know about the Green Arrow Corps?" Su Mengqing smiled disdainfully. "Of course I do. I dare say that I know more about the Green Arrow Corps than anyone else. Its composition, organization, members, base location, operation, I guarantee that I know it best." Ding Ming said, "Oh." Su Mengqing stopped smiling and said with a sigh, "You must be curious as to why I know it so well. I don't need to hide it from you. Fong Jinghao and I were classmates when we were young." Ding Ming was stunned. He really did not expect this. Su Mengqing turned her head, as if she was reminiscing about the past. "Not only were we classmates, but we were also lovers for a long time." Ding Ming stared at her. "However, you're now a superstar, while he's the chief commander of the Green Arrow Corps." "Yes." The corner of Su Mengqing's mouth revealed her disdainful sneer. He was such an outstanding origin ability user in the past. He had a bright future ahead of him. Even the teachers in the school were very optimistic about him. Yet, he gave up such a good future and ran to outer space to develop the Green Arrow Corps. He mixed with those lowly refugees. He's so pedantic that he can't be saved. Stupid beyond compare. Her expression was a little annoyed. Obviously, she was still brooding over this past. Ding Ming said lightly, "So you parted ways later." Su Mengqing replied, "Of course, I have my dreams too." Ding Ming also sighed. "Your dream seems to have come true, but he is still holding on." Su Mengqing sneered. "Do you think it's so easy to realize my dream? Is the price not high enough?" Ding Ming pondered and said, "But you still came to Cypress Grove Star this time?" Su Mengqing said, "I didn't come for him, even though I knew he would send someone." Ding Ming said, "Oh." Su Mengqing said, "The massacre of the Green Arrow Base is not a small matter. With Fong Jinghao's personality, he will definitely do something about it. However, the Green Arrow Army is not strong enough to fight against the extreme bandits. He will definitely send spies in." Ding Ming said, "So you're suspecting me?" Su Mengqing said proudly, "Of course I have my ways." Ding Ming suddenly sighed. "I understand. You want me to do something for you?" Su Mengqing said, "There is no such thing as helping in this place. It's a fair deal. Whoever has more money is right." Ding Ming sighed. "Unfortunately, what you said at the meeting today was not right." Su Mengqing said coldly, "The extreme bandits are really bold. How dare they cheat the Xinghong group of their money?" Ding Ming said, "So you have to give them an explanation, right?" Su Mengqing showed an admiring look. "You are a smart man. It seems that Fong Jinghao sent you for a reason." Ding Ming ignored her and continued to ask, "What benefits can I get?" Su Mengqing said, "I can promise you that you can take half of it." Ding Ming smiled again. "You heard it at the meeting during the day. Lu Ming promised to give me 15% as a consulting service fee. I haven't even seen half of it yet." Su Mengqing said, "He is him, and I am me. We're not the same at all. My offer is definitely not a joke." Ding Ming sneered and said, "In my eyes, you are the same." Su Mengqing stared at him coldly. "You don't believe in the reputation of the Xinghong group?" Ding Meng sneered even more. I only know one thing. If you don't put the money in your pocket, it can't be called money. Su Mengxing took a deep breath. Don't you think your appetite is too big? Ding Meng said with a smile. I'm the one who takes the risk, but you stay here comfortably and take the benefits. Is this a fair deal? Su Mengxing also smiled, but this time her smile was very strange. I can pay the deposit first. Ding Meng was a little surprised. Oh, what kind of deposit? Su Mengxing did not answer, but directly got up and walked over. She lifted a corner of the bottom of her bathrobe and sat on Ding Meng's thighs in a very gentle posture. She gently held Ding Meng's head with both hands and looked at him with a faint smile. Her eyes showed the seductive look again, and she said word by word, I am the deposit. You can use me now. Ding Meng only felt that his thighs were surprisingly hot and soft, and the snow-white ball of Su Mengxing's V-shaped neckline was less than half a meter away from his face. As long as he reached out, he could lift the bathrobe and see her real face. These were all secondary. The key was the fragrant and rapid breath that Su Mengxing exhaled at him from her mouth and nose, which was really irresistible. This woman was obviously a veteran in the field of love. She held the back of Ding Meng's head and did not stop. Her right hand slowly slid to his earlobe and gently rubbed it. She obviously had a deep understanding of men. Unfortunately, Ding Meng did not move. He suddenly smiled again. Unfortunately, your deposit is not worth much. Su Mengxing's body suddenly stiffened, and her face became cold. Ding Meng continued, and even if you want to pay the deposit, it's too late now. Su Mengxing also noticed that the wristband on the small table next to her was flashing green. The person who could contact her directly must be someone close to her. Helpless, she could only get off Ding Meng and open the screen. Elan's face appeared on the screen. Miss Su, Mr. Chu Zhongyu wants to see you. Su Mengxing's face was very ugly. He came at the right time. Let him in. Chu Zhongyu definitely did not come alone. 5 bodyguards followed behind him at all times, and Jia Mao was naturally among them. When he came in and saw that Ding Meng was also there, Chu Zhongyu was not surprised. Instead, he greeted him casually. Brother Wolf is also here. In Chu Zhongyu's mind, a coolie like Wild Wolf could not possibly have any designs on Su Mengxing. Moreover, with Su Mengxing's status and beauty, it was even less likely that she would take a liking to someone like Wild Wolf. Were these two discussing something? Ding Meng could only stand politely. Mr. Chu, Miss Su, please take your time. I'm going back to my room to rest. Brother Wolf, take care. As he said this, the corners of Chu Zhongyu's mouth twitched slightly. His subordinates all understood this expression. Keep an eye on this wolf. When Ding Meng walked out of the room, the corners of his mouth also twitched. Of course, he was sneering. The person who came was none other than Jia Mao. He was worried about how to deal with him, but he didn't expect him to deliver himself to him. The alloy door closed, and the elevator slowly descended to the first floor. At this moment, it was already dark outside, and the night sky was filled with stars. The colorful light fountain in the central square had already been turned on. Ding Meng walked towards building number 3 unhurriedly, and Jia Mao followed behind unhurriedly. When they reached the circular helipad, Ding Meng suddenly stopped and slowly turned around. How should I address you, sir? Jia Mao smiled faintly. Don't worry about me. Just worry about yourself. Ding Meng also smiled and ignored him, continuing to walk forward. Building 3 was completely different from Building 1. The first floor was a completely transparent and empty metal hall, and there were 2 mercenaries standing guard at the door. When they saw the pass hanging in front of Ding Meng's chest, the leading mercenary's attitude became very polite. So it's Brother Wolf. Brother Biao said that Brother Wolf could go directly to the material warehouse on the 3rd floor. Please come in. Just because he could pass did not mean that Jia Mao could. Jia Mao was already stopped by another mercenary. I'm sorry, Mr. Jia. Without the authorization of the group, you can't enter. Jia Mao was not intimidated by these people. He glared. Since you know my surname is Jia, you should know that I came to Bogger Planet with Mr. Chu. This The two mercenaries certainly knew the name of the fourth young master of the Chu family, but they had to do their duty, and neither of them dared to break the rules. Ding Ming suddenly smiled. Forget it, brothers. This gentleman is from Haitian group. You just here look around. If there's any problem, I'll take responsibility. When the two mercenaries heard such a reply, they could only smile and say, Please, Mr. Jia, come in. This time, Jia Mao hesitated. He did not understand what Wild Wolf meant by this. I was the one who was watching you, but you didn't seem to care. Looking at Ding Ming's half-smile, Jia Mao thought to himself, I'm an entourage of Haitian group. There's no need for me to be afraid of a coolie like you. The elevator rose to the third floor, and what appeared in front of Ding Ming was a very spacious metal passageway. This passageway was about 300 meters long, 15 meters wide, and 10 meters tall. Clearly, large mechanical units usually pass through it. At the end of the passage was naturally an alloy door. After the pass was scanned on the verification lock, the door automatically opened. Inside were rows of steel shelves. On the shelves, there were all kinds of things placed in boxes of various sizes. Of course, containers and boxes were definitely not here. After Ding Ming scanned the whole place with his telekinesis vision, he could not help but murmur and sigh. This pirate group is too stingy. They promised me that I could use any materials I wanted, but the best materials here are only low-quality crystals. I found tens of billions of wealth for them, but they just sent me away like this. Zhao Mao could not help but snort coldly. It's good enough that you're here to look around. What else do you want? Ding Ming turned around and said, Oh, from your tone, it sounds like I should feel honored to be here, right? Zhao Mao said proudly, Of course. To be honest, it's already a great fortune for someone like you to be able to have a meal in this banquet hall. Why do you still have so many strange words to say? Ding Ming suddenly looked up at him. Then tell me, what kind of person should I be? Zhao Mao felt an inexplicable chill from his gaze. Chapter 239. With a woo-woo sound, the door to the material warehouse closed. Zhao Mao was not afraid of Ding Ming's question. I'm just curious. You were actually able to enter Miss Sue's room. Ding Ming suddenly laughed again. Are you trying to say, why should a coolie like me be allowed to enter? Zhao Mao calmly said, You do have some self-awareness. Ding Ming turned around and slowly walked forward. Along the way, he took a pitch-black ore from the shelf and examined it carefully. Little rascal suddenly opened his mouth. Ding Ming, we've already taken control of the 24 surveillance cameras in this material warehouse. Their command center can only see static images right now. Only then did Ding Ming nod her head and continue to scrutinize the rough crystal or embryo. However, the words that came out of her mouth made Zhao Mao's hair stand on end. Your cousin Jia Hua seems to be very interested in Miss Bing. Nonsense. Zhao Mao almost didn't hesitate at all and subconsciously wanted to retort. This kind of talk was even more frightening than having a strong enemy. It must be known that Miss Bing was young Master Feng's exclusive property. No matter who it was, if they dared to have any ideas about Miss Bing, there would only be one outcome, an extremely ugly death. However, Zhao Mao forcefully swallowed the words that were about to come out of his mouth. Instead, he calmed down. I finally know what you were doing in Su Mingqing's room. Ding Ming was too lazy to respond. He simply asked directly, if Jia Hua wasn't trying to curry favor with Miss Bing, why would he secretly instruct you to contact Hu Biao and go to planet KV-303 to find Ding Ming? Since the other party could directly say it, Zhao Mao knew that denying it was useless. He stared closely at Ding Ming. Who exactly are you? You'll find out, Ding Ming calmly asked. Hu Biao's spaceship was able to fly in a nebula KV-3545 without any scruples. Was it Hu Li and Zhuang Weiming's doing in the dark? So that Phoenix Planet 3 space station didn't send out a warning in time? Zhao Mao coldly replied, So what if it was? Ding Ming expressionlessly nodded. Very good. Zhao Mao secretly activated his origin ability. This person actually knew such secret information. He was definitely not a good person. Jia Mao needed to be on guard. Ding Ming finally stopped at a corner formed by a row of shelves. I have one last question for you. Your fourth young master should know what was in the last container in the hall today. Jia Mao sneered and said, So what if I know? So what if I don't know? Ding Ming said, If he knows, then you should know too. If you know, I advise you to tell the truth, lest you regret it later. Jia Mao said sternly, You sure talk big. This time, Ding Ming did not answer him, because in his field of vision, Ding Ming's figure was weak and blurry for a moment, as if he was hallucinating. Then, Ding Ming appeared in front of him like a magician, still looking at him with a faint smile. My tone is a little too arrogant in front of you. Even though Jia Mao had secretly prepared himself, he did not expect Ding Ming's speed to be so fast that he could not react in time. It was only at this moment that he finally felt a piercing pain come from his arm, burrowing into his shoulder and instantly spreading to every part of his body. This kind of pain actually affected his vision. Jia Mao's vision was filled with stars, and then he bent over in pain. Back in Meteor City, he had barely been able to withstand Ding Ming's attack. But now, Ding Ming's figure flickered and his hand chopped down, shattering his elbow and breaking his arm. Moreover, he had not been sent flying. It was clear that Ding Ming's control over his strength had reached a new level, and he was no longer at Jia Mao's level. Right now, Jia Mao's left hand was tightly gripping his right arm. His right arm could not exert any strength at all. The worst thing was that Ding Ming's tattered boots were right in front of him, and he could not use his origin energy to counterattack. More than half of the origin energy in his body had been stagnated by the opponent's exaggerated attack. Who are you? His tone was full of vigilance when he asked this question, but now it was full of fear. You don't seem to have answered my question. Ding Ming looked at him expressionlessly. Jia Mao clenched his teeth and used all his strength to slam his head into Ding Ming. Of course, this was not an iron head technique. He just hoped that the opponent could avoid it, and then he would crash into the row of shelves. In the midst of the collapse, he would take advantage of the chaos to send his location to his wristband. That way, he would still have a glimmer of hope. He knew very well that he was no match for the opponent. The reason was very simple. The aura of the person in front of him was very faint, and he could not even sense it clearly. One could only imagine how terrifying the opponent's background was. He thought that his head would crash into the shelves, but unfortunately, he felt as if he had crashed into an invisible layer of sponge. Ding Ming reached out his index finger and firmly pressed it against the center of his skull. The finger seemed to have a soft magic that prevented him from moving forward even an inch. Then, a dark golden light seemed to flash on the finger. Jia Mao finally felt fear from the bottom of his heart. He saw half of his right arm fall to the ground, and blood gushed out from the wound on his elbow. This time, he did not feel any pain because the attack was too fast. Ding Ming still looked at him expressionlessly. He slowly raised his right hand, and the claw blade between his fingers whirled a few times before disappearing. Jia Mao completely gave up on resisting. He sat on the ground, hot sweat dripping from his head. I don't know. The dark golden light flashed again, and Jia Mao was in so much pain that tears almost flowed out. Ding Ming had cut off his left index finger and thumb. His whole body was trembling. Ding Ming stared at him coldly. If I hear you say those 3 words again, I will make sure you never know. Jia Mao's teeth were chattering. It's a reverse source crystal. Holy shit. Little rascal could not help but curse. Oh my god. No wonder my telekinesis vision couldn't see through it. It's actually a reverse source crystal inside. Xiao AI said, artificial reverse source crystals can be inspected. I'm afraid it's a pure, natural reverse source crystal from the depths of the universe. Ding Ming was obviously shocked by this news. The value of a pure, natural inverse source crystal was truly unimaginable. It was not something that could be measured with celestial coins. Ding Ming said in a low voice, since Chu Zhongyu knew it was a reverse source crystal, why did he sell it to Lu Ming so generously? He sold it for 30 billion star coins? Jia Mao gritted his teeth. Lu Ming promised fourth young master that as long as fourth young master sold it to him, he would have someone leak information about the reverse source crystal to Su Mengqing. Su Mengqing will definitely buy it back from Lu Ming, as long as Su Mengqing is willing to sleep with fourth young master for a few nights. Lu Ming is willing to negotiate the price. This time, even Ding Ming was convinced. He always thought Lu Ming knew how to play, but he did not expect Lu Ming to play to this extent. He sold the reverse source crystal to Su Mengqing again. Putting aside the astronomical figure, the Starbao Group had at least a few 100 billion star coins, right? Thinking about it, the Extreme Bandit Corps had actually sold such a large sum of money for no reason. He could not help but be convinced. Little Rascal was so angry that he laughed. Meng Yin is not talking nonsense. Chu Zhongyu really only knows how to indulge in wine and women. He really spent a lot of money on picking up girls. The key is that this girl is probably a bus and not embedded with diamonds. Embedded with diamonds is already degrading. She should be embedded with kryptonite. These young masters are really 666. Ding Ming suddenly stepped on Jia Mao's broken arm. Seeing that you answered honestly, I can spare your life. After saying that, he exerted a little force with his boot. The broken arm on the ground, along with the wrist device, turned into a pile of mud without even a spark. Jia Mao was about to speak when his vision suddenly turned black. He fell limply to the ground. Ding Ming had hit the back of his head with a karate chop, but he did not react at all. Little Rascal said, Ding Ming, if you don't get rid of him completely, be careful not to leave behind more trouble. Ding Ming said coldly, getting rid of him like this is letting him off easy. If his fortune is good, I will slowly deal with him. If not, I will let him die here. Xiao AI said, if the 12th box really contains the inverse source crystal, then time is very tight. You have to act quickly. Ding Ming nodded. He had not retracted his psychic vision since the beginning of the banquet. How could any corner of these 4 buildings escape his detection? Underneath these 4 buildings was a huge command center. It was like a falcon flying ship lurking underground. There were a total of 5 floors, and all kinds of staff were busily moving back and forth on each floor. In the most central core cabin on the 3rd floor, dozens of control consoles formed a circle around a huge square power reactor in the center. The light screen on the control consoles refreshed densely with dense data. The staff were focused on deciphering. This was the 12th box. Deciphering the gene lock on it was actually very simple, but it would take a lot of effort to take out the thing inside. Just like the energy carrier of the K-virus in the black gold base, the inverse source crystal itself carried an extremely shocking amount of energy. Directly exposed to the air would produce strong fluctuations. If it was shaken slightly or not handled properly, the fluctuations would rapidly increase by thousands of times. Just the fluctuations alone could cripple or kill people. Affecting the surrounding people might be a small matter, but if the fluctuations were too strong, it would arouse the perception and suspicion of the experts. If the matter was exposed, it would be troublesome. Therefore, after the inverse source crystal was taken out, it had to be put into the reactor to be refined and reloaded with a more advanced crystal carrier matrix to make it easier to carry around. At this moment, the light screen in front of every staff member showed the same image, a nearly transparent cube about half a meter long. It was like a crystal cube that had been cut flat and smooth. The surface of the cube was diffusing circles of colorful light, causing the inverse source crystal to constantly change color. This kind of diffusion was very strange. It was not regular from the inside to the outside, one circle after another, but many circles at the same time, with circles within circles. It was like a magical stone in a fantasy world, truly overflowing with light and color, wonderful beyond words. This was only the image seen through the ion detector. What was seen with the naked eye was different. In the image, the inverse source crystal was put back into a small container that looked like a small suitcase. As the alloy claws in the power reactor continued to modify, the suitcase was slowly taken out. A staff member carefully took the suitcase and then walked to the back of the rest area. Brother Luan, it's done. Mao Wan was also very cautious as he held the suitcase. He said with a sigh, after so many days, it was all for this thing. Brothers, you've worked hard. Brother Luan, why don't you do the encryption? The staff member reminded him. Mao Wan waved his hand. No, this thing should be handed over to Master Wan. We can't make the decision. Come, let's go up. With a whoosh, the door of the passage opened to both sides. Before Mao Wan's feet even started to move, his face changed. Didn't you go back? Thought you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.